is an epidemic of mass murder being committed by a virtual army of unidentified assassins. It seems to be a sudden, general explosion of mass homicide. Consistent reports from witnesses to the effect that people who acted as though they were in a kind of trance were killing and eating their victims prompted authorities to examine the bodies of some of the victims. Medical authorities in Cumberland have concluded that in all cases, the killers are eating the flesh of the people they murdered.
Incredible as they seem, are not the results of mass hysteria. First eyewitness accounts of this grisly development came from people who were understandably frightened and almost incoherent. Officials and newsmen at first discounted their eyewitness descriptions as being beyond belief. However, reports persisted. Medical examinations of some of the victims bore out the fact that they had been partially devoured. I think we have some late word just arriving, and I'll interrupt to bring this to you. This is the latest disclosure in a report from National Civil Defense Headquarters in Washington. It has been established that persons who have recently died have been returning to life and committing acts of murder. A widespread investigation of reports from funeral homes, morgues, and hospitals has concluded that the unburied dead are coming back to life and seeking human victims. It's hard for us here to believe what we're reporting to you, but it does seem to be a fact. When this emergency first began, radio and television was advising people to stay inside, behind locked doors for safety. Well, that situation has now changed. We're able to report a definite course of action. Civil defense machinery has been organized to provide rescue stations with food, shelter, medical treatment, and protection by armed National Guardsmen. Stay tuned to the broadcasting stations in your local area for this list of rescue stations. This list will be repeated throughout our news coverage. Look for the name of the rescue station nearest you and make your way to that location as soon as possible.
No longer seek occupancy in private residences, no matter how safe or well protected they may be.
They use everybody maybe 5% of the food available in the human body.
The kind of thing.
With that small amount, the body is usually intact enough to be mobile when it revives.
What are you saying? I mean, you science.
Dummies!
You're suggesting...
Dummies! Dummies!
Excuse me. Listen, quiet.
One wonders whether it's worth saving. Why don't we drop bombs in all the big cities?
You're probably serious.
I'm deadly serious. What are the choices? They won't run out of food, young lady. That's the problem, you see. And they won't run out of food while we're still alive.
We can lift you out to safety. Please answer my call if you can hear me.
We've got to remain logical. We've got to. There's no choice. It has to be. It's that or the end.
Attention all shoppers. Attention all shoppers.
One-stop shopping. Everything you need right at your fingertips. T-shirts, hoodies, hats, coffee mugs. We got it all. Why pay more when the sales are a-boppin' right here? shop.alpharomero.store.
Hey, it's Greg Nicotero. You are, or if you're not, should be watching Alpha Romero on YouTube.
What's going on, everybody? Happy Sunday night to you all. Um, Hopefully I'm coming in okay. I've been fucking with this internet and this microphone all night. Hopefully everything's going well so far. If not, I apologize. But we're gonna do our best. We're gonna get through it tonight. But how's everybody doing out there? Just did a watch along on Wednesday night, last Wednesday, so I was just here, but feels like it's been a while. I just did a watch along of the amusement park on Wednesday night. That was, I wouldn't say it was a lot of fun, but it was interesting. It was definitely love that movie. I like it more and more every time I see it, and I don't know, maybe it's every time I see it, the older I get, the more connected I feel to it. But how's my sound coming in? I can't tell. So, let me check the chat. Anybody say anything? Saying, "Hey, Mike, your shit sucks." Looks like my picture quality is not the greatest, but as long as you guys can hear me, I mean, sound is a bit low. I was having that issue. All right, I'm adjusting this. I don't know if this is helping any. Sound is okay. Okay, well, I'll put it right here in the middle. We'll work with what we got. Work with what we got. But I'm not cutting in and out or anything, so. All right, I'm not seeing any of that. So just want to check, make sure everything's coming in all right and everything's working before we actually get into anything. Because that was an issue I had on Wednesday with that watch along. Like the first 10 minutes of that, I'm just like cutting in and out, in and out. And listening back to it on the replay was driving me insane. It really bums me out. Seems the sound's not bad. Picture is so-so. All right, well, hopefully this will clear up as we go. That seems to be the typical typical way things run around here. I don't think I have anything open or anything that'd be slowing down the internet, but that's better early than late, I guess. All right, let's get to it. I'll quit fixating on it. But I'm just that kind of person, I guess, right? Something just doesn't go my way, like something doesn't go as planned. I get fixated on it, and it just really irks me, gets under my skin. I'm a bit of a perfectionist that way, I guess. But what the hell? But looking at the chat here, let me see who all we got in here tonight. Of course, first man up, Mr. Robert Harbits II. What's going on, man? Is it the second or third? I can't remember. It's Robert Harbits III, I believe. Hello, everyone. Hello, Mike. Looking forward to the show. Good to see you, my man. Stugas is here. Stugas Dive. Hey, friends. Going to try and stay up for the first 15 minutes or so. What's going on, man? Good to see you. Man himself, Brandon Salisbury's in the house tonight. Bonnie Bailey. Good to see Bonnie here. Yeah, you missed me on Wednesday, Bonnie, but you're on right here, as always, on the weekends. But yeah, it was a little weird doing a stream midweek, like right in the middle of the week on a Wednesday. I'm just wasn't used to it, but I was thinking, like, I really want to kind of watch the amusement park after we talked about it a couple of weeks ago when we were talking about the comic book, and it really got me in the mood to go back and watch the movie again. So I was like, yeah, I'll do it. I'll do a live stream. I'll do a watch along, which watch alongs, I'm not the biggest fan of doing watch alongs, especially like by myself. Like the fan commentary that we did was a shitload of fun because it was just a bunch of us, watching Dawn of the Dead and cracking up and everything. But when you're by yourself, like, I don't know, it's a little weird. I don't know if you guys have noticed, but like when I'm on here, I like to just kind of go stream of conscious type of thing. But when I'm trying to watch something and at the same time comment on it, I find myself like saying dumb shit that like, oh, now he's walking down the street. It's like, no shit. Like, if you're watching the movie, you can see he's walking down the street. You're adding nothing to this. You're just talking just to talk. So I get a little insecure about that. But I think if I'm going to do watch-alongs in the future, I think I'm going to maybe have some folks on with me. But anyway, there's a little rant for you guys. But good to see you, Bonnie. Mr. Rick, the North Going Llama. What's going on, man? Good to see Rick. Blake Allen's back in the house. Glad to make it again, finally. Glad to have you again, finally. Good to see Blake, as always. Yeah, the llama man himself. trying to make sure everything's coming in all right. I keep getting the little signal thing up here, but that's gonna be my new gimmick. I'm just constantly fucking with the internet. Brandon says, "Can I just say this has become one of my favorite live streams to watch?" Well, that's awesome, man. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. I'm trying to get all the kinks and shit worked out so it's a little more enjoyable for people to watch. So I'm not cutting in and out on the microphone, or the picture quality's terrible, but hey, I'm a one-man crew here, so you know how it is. If anybody knows how it is to like have something, planned, like, oh, I hope this goes as planned, then everything possible goes wrong. Like that seems to be a weekly thing here on this stream, but I'll get it figured out. Damn it, I'll get it figured out. Because yeah, I know, like when you're making films and any type of creative thing like that, like there's always going to be issues. It's just like you can never plan for the issues that you're going to face, and if you try to, it's just you'll fall out of it's just there's always going to be something unexpected. Rick said I have my TV at 46, which is kind of high for my set, so I guess I'm coming in all right. Sounds not too bad. Picture so. You may have to speak more loudly. I'm gonna just start shouting. Hey! Yeah, I've kind of noticed that earlier. Like, sound wasn't coming in great when I was doing some tests on this thing. So I don't know what I hit or what I done, but let me hold on 1 second, guys. Let me I'm gonna listen to I'm gonna go and check it out and listen to how it's sounding on a playback. Because it would be nice if there were like meters or something on here that you could look and see like where your levels are, but you pretty much just gotta chuck and pray on this fucking thing. Where am I? Am I subscribed to myself? Yeah, I am. Okay. Bear with me, guys. Okay, I think I'm all right. So let's roll through it. Let's roll through it. We must persevere. Hey, what's up, Dirk? Subjective Perspective Collective. Dirk's in the house. What's going on, man? Hope you're doing well. Robert says, I have the amusement park on Blu-ray. I just got it again on DVD. Oh, wow, you got it on DVD. I didn't know they released it on DVD. Did Shudder do a DVD release of that as well? If so, I'm gonna have to get that. I'm gonna have to get that too. I asked my comic book store to set aside the comic for me when it comes in. Also, awesome. Yeah, I think what was the release date on that? Is it next month? Is it May? If I remember correctly, it's coming up soon. Seen a lot of people talking about it. So, but yeah, definitely looking forward to picking that up when it comes out. Hey, Suzanne. Suzanne Herr is in the house. It's been a while since I've seen Suzanne in here. How you doing? Hope you're doing well. Michael Rashpaul is in the house. What's up, Michael? Good to see you as always, sir. Blake says, I have found that listening to the Dawn soundtrack, all music is very relaxing. Yeah, it is. There's in different ways. Because then you got like the relaxing piano music at towards the end of the soundtrack, and even like the the zombie supermarket version of that song is kind of I like it. Yeah. Or maybe it's just because we're all fucking weird, and just anything Dawn of the Dead is relaxing. It's like I was saying the other night, is like just watching Dawn of the Dead is kind of a comfort film for me. Like that's kind of my go-to. Obviously, I mean, if you guys couldn't have guessed that already. Okay, Robert Hart's the second. That's right, second. I'm looking for your child will be the third. make sure that happens, Robert. Dirk says my internet's down till tomorrow. Lost power last night, and it could always be worse. Yeah, I guess that's true. I'm as close as possible to being just down, internet wise, but we'll sally forth. Sally forth. Suzanne says Mama Sue should be asleep by now, but we'll hang out until I zonk out. Well, I'm glad you are spending your late nights with us here on the channel, and hopefully you're doing well, and hope the little one is as well. John, what's going on, man? John Vulo is here. I just spent all weekend talking about Romero, and now I'm here listening to all things Romero. I'm glad to have you in here as always, man. Always good to see you in here. And what were you, Chiller Theater Expo or whatnot? You're working with Jim, with some of the night and the day cast there. I think you mentioned you had talked to Gornick about some things, so looks like you had a pretty fun weekend. Looks like you really enjoyed it. And you went to the Meshuggah concert on Friday, if I'm not mistaken, which was pretty awesome. Like I was telling you, Meshuggah is one of those bands that doesn't sound like anything else. It's so distinctive. And like back in my like teenage years when we were doing our backyard wrestling thing, that was my entrance music. I use was it Rational Gaze by Meshuggah. That was the thing that I would come out to get pumped out before, hitting each other over the head with chairs and stuff, which might explain why I am the way I am today. But all the chair shots and undiagnosed concussions that I'm sure I experienced during that time period, but whatever, it was fun. It was good times. I said I've been to that local horror convention at a dying mall I grew up around. It was bittersweet to be there. I wore my Dawn of the Dead hoodie for the occasion. Perfect. Which mall was it? It was a local horror convention at a mall? That's interesting. I thought Living Dead Weekend was the only one like that. Which I wouldn't say Monroeville Mall is a dying mall. Well, I mean, it's not a dead mall at this point, but it may be well on its way to being a dying mall. I mean, it is a dying mall at this point. We all kind of know, where that thing's headed, and it's nowhere good, I don't think. But yeah, I wanted to talk about a little bit of Living Dead Weekend tonight too. There's been quite a few new guest announcements, some pretty cool names, and I was on the Living Dead Weekend website earlier and noticed something pretty cool that I don't know if they've officially announced yet. So I was surprised to see that, but we'll check it out here in just a second. Rob Santa sound perfect, awesome. Hopefully it stays true. Dirk says, I definitely understand tonight. I was doing a giveaway, but no Wi-Fi changed that. Murphy's Law. See what you get, Dirk, when you try to do something nice for somebody, which I entered that contest, damn it. I'm hoping to win that sucker. Because I don't own the Beyond on anything. Like, it's, I wouldn't say it's like one of my favorite Fulci films, but I do, it is a fun film. Like, it's really out there. But there's some really awesome visuals and some good gore effects, and, it's just a fun fucking movie to watch. But yeah, see what happens when you try to do something nice, Dirk. It's like, I'm gonna give this fucking killer 4K away, and they're just like, no. It's like, no, we're cutting the internet off. Rick says, I turned on my Bluetooth speakers on my TV. I can hear you much better now. Okay, awesome. All right, I'm glad we got that situated. Hey, what's going on? All right, so it's My Lunatique 99. That's pretty cool. I like the way that sounds, but he says Dawn to me is the one I go back to all the time. Yeah, me too. We're doing it again tonight, by God. Because like I said, I did the amusement park watch along on Wednesday, and as much as I like that movie, it's really like kind of a bummer to watch. And like after I got through watching it, like I was pretty bummed out for the next couple of days. Really, it just kind of hits me that way. Like I said, every time I watch it, and like I said, maybe it's because the older I get, and who knows what other factors, but so I want to do something kind of fun tonight. So I thought we'd talk a little bit about the Dawn of the Dead zombie origin stories. And I kind of want to get you guys' theories and thoughts of the origins of a lot of our favorite zombies. The sweater vest zombie, the nurse zombie. I got 10 lined up here, and I got my own theories and my own thoughts about, it's like in the movie. The quote, what the hell are they? They're us, that's all. And they were us before they, crossed over to the other side, as they say. And I've always been curious. I've always, it's probably just because I'm a super nerd, and I mean, I figure we're all super nerds, so it should be a fun little exercise. But I always like trying to figure out, like, oh, who are they? Like, what's their story? Why do they act that way? Because different zombies act different ways. They're motivated by different things. Like the rifle zombie. I want to talk about him tonight. Like, why? Like, what is about the rifle that he's so fixated with? And even when he gets a chance, he switches to the better rifle. Is he like, what's the story behind that? Who was he before he was a zombie? Because George in these films all have, pretty much from dawn through day through the rest of his films, was like, oh, there's a memory there of who they were before, and it's, they are still inside of this, corpse that's walking around, instinctively looking for human flesh, but underneath that, there's still like with Bub, like you tap into that inner, that inner human that's trapped inside that zombie. I don't know. I'm just curious about that. I think it's a fun topic, something fun to talk about, and just get you guys' fucking wild ass theories about, like, who the fucking helicopter zombie was before, he was the helicopter zombie. Why does his fucking head look like that? Like, that's an interesting one. Like, I try to justify that. Like, obviously we all know in real life it looks like that because the appliance was, it was the appliance. It was the makeup effects, but like, looking at it in kayfabe, which is a wrestling term for, like, don't share the secret, pretend like this shit's real. Like, why does his head look like that? Like, what happened to him? Did he get crushed, or like, frying pan? I don't know, but yeah, so we're gonna do that a little bit here, in just a little bit. Long story short, but good to see you. I'm glad, one of my newest subscribers, so glad to have you in here. Robert said, I said this way back, but I'm still super impressed that you got my last name right the first time you said it. Nobody does. Hey, I do my best for a Western Kentucky hillbilly, I'll tell you that, but it may take me a minute, but I'm glad I got yours on the first try. Which I don't think yours is that hard, really. Harbits? I think that's... What do people... What else would it be? Harbites? Harbitsy? Like, I don't know what else it could be, so I don't know. I don't think that's a big achievement on my part, but maybe I overestimate, other YouTubers out there. I don't know, man. Dirk says, I recently grabbed a vinyl of Goblin's Murder Collection. Has tracks from several films and 2 from Yawn. Shut up. But I have to admit that score is amazing. Yeah, I mean, it's an iconic score. But Dirk, you gotta quit with that Yawn shit, man. You gotta quit. No, it's cool, man. Yeah, I mean, the score, I mean, anything Goblin, I'm just a huge Goblin fan of anything that they do, but yeah, the Dawn score, I mean, it's a very different type of score. Like I said, I think a lot of it, if I'm not mistaken, so when George sent the full length, the full cut of Dawn overseas for Dario to cut into the European cut that we know today, I feel like it was all library tracks on all of that stuff. Because I know George liked to work with music. Like, he said that. Like, I like to edit with music. Like, I do sound, picture, and then music just to have something there, So I wouldn't be surprised if he used a bunch of library tracks on that stuff and then sent it over to Italy for Argento to look at, and it had all this library stuff, and I'm sure a couple of the things on there may have been, like, stuff that Goblin had written previously, but it never really used for anything up to that point. But I do think they probably took some of their cues, because a lot of it sounds a lot like very similar, like the Pie in the Face track, the Safari track from the gun store. A lot of that sounds very similar to the library tracks that Romero was using on there. So I think a lot of that stuff was just inspired by the library music that George already had on there. So it's really interesting. It's a very different type of score than Goblin had done up to that point, which Suspiria is a very different type of score than what they had done at that point. But I just think they were at that point where they were just kind of hitting on all cylinders and really cranking out gold. John says, yeah, I talked to Gornick on a lot of stuff, mostly. We figured out the amusement park was definitely after Crazy, so 1973 appears correct. There you go. And if anybody would know, it'd be Gornick. That was the first... No, it wasn't the first. Crazies was the first project that he worked on with George, but it was definitely... Well, I don't know. Was he in the Crazies? Did he have... I don't know. I'm trying to think of something, but I'm trying to backtrack, but I'm off on that one. But he was definitely maybe his one and only, like, semi-starring role was the amusement park, because I mean, outside of Lincoln Mizell, him and Bonnie probably had the biggest roles in that movie. So, which I don't know why they didn't use him for more stuff. He wasn't bad in the amusement park. I mean, I know a lot of after the fact. I mean, it's hard to be in front of the camera when you're behind the camera. So I guess that does make sense. That why he wouldn't be in front of the camera more. But even in like Martin, like I'd love to see his scene in Martin as the detective, just to kind of see how he played it. But we may not see a lot of Gornick, but we definitely hear a lot of Gornick in all those films. Martin, Dawn. I think he was in Creep Show. No, was it Creep Show? Flesh Eater. I think he was a voiceover in Flesh Eater at one point. So, but yeah. Gornick, love Gornick to death. Glad he's still dropping the knowledge out there. Brent says, "Oh, a fellow master of the chair shots." I don't know if I'd say a master of them, but we definitely tried when we were younger. To the point where, so like when we were really young, we would use things that would simulate a steel chair, like cookie sheets and shit like that, like stuff that would like bend easy, didn't hurt. But when we got to our teenage years, it was just kind of like, all right, it's time to up this shit. Like, all right, let's get a real chair. So we went to Walmart and bought a real folding chair for like $10 or whatever it was. Took it home and I was like, all right, who's gonna be the first one? So we started taking them across the back, and I was like, all right, that's not so bad. Like you just, it's not so bad. All right, let's try a headshot. One time, just even like not even like hard, but just like enough to like make a noise. And it was just like, no, I'm pretty sure I gave my friend a concussion after that. I was like, all right, we're not doing that. Maybe across the back, but not the head. So yeah, that may explain, it may explain a lot. I'm pretty sure I got my bell rung quite a few times back in the day. Steve, what's going on, man? Steve, is it Morris? I'm just gonna call you Steve. What's up, Steve? See, with Robert, like now I'm on a roll. I feel like I need to get everybody's last names correct on the first try, but like I said, just dumb hillbilly from Western Kentucky. Well, yeah, I do what I can. John says, "Love My Meshuggah. They played Rational Live too, which is normal for them. A great song and what got me into them." Yeah, I think it was probably the first track that I heard from them too. It was on like a compilation CD back in the day. I can't remember what the hell it was called, but it had like them and Arch Enemy and a lot of like newer metal bands that I hadn't really listened to before. And they were the one that definitely stood out the most. Like as soon as I heard it, I was like, "Wow, what is this? This is different." And it's so rare, like it's so hard. Like I like metal music, okay. Like it's not my favorite. I like, the different genres within metal, some more than others, but it's so hard to be unique in the metal genre anymore because it just seems like everything's been done. Every riff was already written by the time Black Sabbath got done with it. So that's like the old joke or whatever. But so yeah, doing like something like Meshuggah was something completely different. Especially what was 2003, 2004 when I first heard that shit. So yeah, very cool. I'm sure they kick ass live too. Robert says, "I'm 47. Trust me, it is the older you get, it means more." I think so, man. Because like I liked it like when it came out. Like I was like, oh, I get it, But like, man, the older you get, the more you get it. You know what I mean? Maybe it's one of those type of movies. Suzanne saying Dawn's one of my comfort movies. Absolutely. Robert saying Land Release is the pinnacle of George's idea that these zombies still have something from their past life in them. Yeah, I mean, and I don't really know where else you go after that. I think that's why he kind of felt like he had to go back to the first night in Diary. Because I just think, it's like how much smarter can they get before they're just humans again, before they're just, there's not really a differential thing between us. But I mean, that's that's kind of a scary thought too. It's like they become self-aware after a while. Hey, Matt Landrum's in the house. Jay Stover's Rifle Zombie was an NRA member. I think that's a good explanation. That's a good one. I got a deeper, more depressing explanation here in a little bit. But it makes sense if I'm gonna lay out my case, and you guys can grill me on it or not. But I thought a lot about it because it really makes sense. ever since seeing it in the theater and that guy sitting next to me, when we was the 3D version, it's in the theater and watching it with the guy next to me. The guy obviously had never seen the movie before, and the one thing that would like get his attention every single time and just crack him up was any time that Jay Stover was on the screen with the fucking rifle still pointed at his head, and I was like, wow, that really works. Like, it's funny to me still, but like, you've seen the movie 1,000 times at this point. You're just kind of used to it. You're just kind of like, oh, it's Jay Stover, rifle zombie. But when you're watching it with somebody new for the first time and like it hits you again, like, oh wow, like that's really kind of genius. Like, what is it about that's genius? In a weird way, I don't know if holding a rifle to your head is genius, but in my world, it is genius. Damn it. Steve says, "What up, Dirk? Great to see you. I watched you live for the giveaway, but I wasn't clear on how to enter. Is it too late to enter, Dirk, on that? Because I'm pretty sure I did everything that was required. But the instructions were down at the bottom of that video that you guys did. Steve, the last Eurocrypt live stream, I believe. Roar says, "Oh, I'm not talking about YouTubers. I'm talking about people in ordinary life." Okay, well that makes more sense. Like, I'm glad I'm not. I'd be embarrassed to be a YouTuber if nobody could get your name right. But I mean, I'm not a member of ordinary people in ordinary life, so it's fine. I fully expect that. Now, they get my name wrong. You're just smarter than most, I guess. I guess so, man. I guess so. Maybe those chair shots weren't too damaging after all. Suzanne says, "I assume the zombies at the heliport were all holding up there waiting for family and just didn't make it." That's a good theory. That's a good theory. I might expand on that a little later, but that definitely dig that theory. John says, "Was talking to Gornick about this again, trying to locate if that cut exists. He said it was 100% library and that it was sent to Dario. So there you go. I'd love to get a hold of that and see it sometime, or somebody, maybe not just me personally, but you know what I mean, like somebody gets it and does a release of it or something, just that full cut with all just the library tracks and stuff, just to see how it plays. I mean, I'll watch Dawn. If you add one extra scene to Dawn of the Dead, I'll take my money. I got to see it. But yeah, that's kind of like a white whale type of thing. The Martin cut, the black and white 2.5 hour cut of Martin, and this cut of Dawn for sure. John says Mike was in the Crazies and did some small stuff. I know his voice was all over the Crazies. He did a lot of the voiceover stuff with George and the usual. I'm trying to remember. I bet it's been a little bit since I've seen the Crazies, but it'll probably jump out to me as soon as I see it, and I'll be like, oh yeah. Did some small stuff on it, but George asked him to shoot some commercials while filming because he didn't want to do it. Yeah, George, I think by the time the Crazies, I mean, George, I talked about this when we were watching the amusement park and why the amusement park didn't quite work out for George the way he hoped. But I just think he had outgrown like work for hire stuff at that point, commercials, industrial films, PSAs for the Lutheran Society, whatever it may be. I just think he had outgrown that at that point and was ready to move on to bigger and better things. Robert says, "When I was in 5th grade, me and friends would wrestle during recess. I was the champion." Oh yeah, we used to do that too. Get on top of the jungle gym and have cage matches. We had the little thing where you climb up over the top. We used to have cage matches. Forget about it. What's up, Justin? Justin Moreno's in the house. Cheers, my man. Cheers to you. Swig of the old Iron City for you. Well, good to see you, sir. Riverman, what's going on, man? I was just watching your stream the other night on best films in 1992. I caught you guys right at the end there, but looking forward to doing that. It's going to be what is it? What did we decide on? May 14th over on the Revival House podcast channel here on YouTube with Riverman and his partner. What's your partner's name? I can't remember his name off the top of my head. He's an entertaining dude. I'm looking forward to talking to you guys for sure, but we'll be doing a Martin watch along. Speaking of Martin, looking forward to that. Any chance I get to watch Martin and talk about Martin, trust me, I'm all in for it. So looking forward to it, man. But you said, did you ever get to meet Joe Pilato? I wish I could have gotten a chance to talk to him. I never did. And I've mentioned this before. I've told this story before. And It's maybe one of the biggest regrets that I've had when it comes to meeting, or not meeting certain people. But my very first convention, 2008, Texas Frightmare Weekend, it was just like a huge Romero reunion, which is why, 2008, like, that was teenager me, like, I worshiped. George was going to be there. It was my one and only opportunity to meet George. So we took a trip to Dallas, Texas Frightmare Weekend. Everybody was there. Everybody was there you could think of that would have been there at the time. And Joe Pilato was there. Joe Pilato, Howard Sherman. Funny enough, I don't think Lori Cardille, Terry, or Jarlath were there. I don't even know if they were doing conventions at that point. I'm sure they were, but they weren't there for whatever reason. But I'll say this: I didn't get to meet Joe. I met pretty much everybody else, but I was always like, oh, I'll wait and meet Joe. I'll wait and meet Joe because, again, I was younger, and like the only thing I'd ever seen him in was Day of the Dead at that point. And when you see Joe Pilato, he was such a larger than life character. Like, there was just something about him that just scared the shit out of me. I was scared that he was going to be like mean to me or something, or like, because he just had that just had that thing about him. So I never went up to his table and never got an autograph, never spoke to him. I just was like, I'm too afraid. And then years later, you hear all these stories from all these people about how incredibly kind and just fun Joe was to meet, talk to, loved the movie, loved his character in the movie, would just quote lines of the movie. And just hearing all that, and I've never heard anybody say like, "Oh, I met Joe Pilato," and what a disappointment that was. It's always been the complete opposite. So I regret just not going up and talking to him. I was just like, I don't know, like there was just something about him that just was just like, oh, I'm scared. Like I don't want Rhodes to yell at me. And I honestly, I wasn't the biggest Day of the Dead fan at that point either in 2008. Like I was a fan, but I was spending all my money on Night of the Living Dead, Dawn of the Dead. There were a ton of other people there. Ed Neal from Texas Chainsaw Massacre. I had to meet him because I love Texas Chainsaw Massacre. So it was just like I just never got around to it. And looking back, I was like, God, like if only. Like I would just love to go back. But no, I never got to. But like I said, anything I've ever heard from anybody or seen in any clips or interviews, like it seemed like Joe was just like the coolest, like nicest, most fun guy you could meet at a convention. And I fucked up and missed out on that one. But I did get to meet George, and that's all that mattered to me that weekend. John says, when you're in Pitts, we'll talk Meshuggah and how they actually got that sound. I have an in with that band too. Oh, that's interesting. I'm all ears for that. Very cool. See, Robert says Alice in Chains are still my favorite rock band, I think. Yeah, I like Alice in Chains, all right. I guess my band from that time period was Nirvana. I grew up huge Nirvana. Never been a big Pearl Jam fan. Like I never understood it. I guess out of the main four Seattle bands, I'd go Nirvana, Alice in Chains, Soundgarden. Well, I don't know. Soundgarden and Alice in Chains are close, but I do love Jerry Cantrell. I love that guitar in Alice in Chains. So I'll go Nirvana, Alice in Chains, Soundgarden, and Pearl Jam in that order. Man, I think 94K is coming out this year. I think it's coming out this year. I'm pretty sure. I mean, it's being worked on. It's being done. Thomas talked about it. He said it's going to be a new cut, a different version. It's going to have more of what he envisioned in the film. So I'm curious to see what that's going to be. I know there's a work print version out there that I've seen, and it does have a little extra footage. The editing's a little different. The music is completely different because it's all not library stuff, but just music, like stuff from Tangerine Dream, and so I don't think it's going to be that, because I think that would just be a nightmare to get the the rights to, like all that music and shit. But yeah, I'm thinking it's going to be like later this year. Hopefully, I'm guessing it'll be right around Halloween if I were to make just a blind guess. But yeah, it's definitely coming. Yeah, there you go, Robert. Yeah, Michael Felser said Night 90's coming out this year. Can't wait. Yeah, I can't either, man. That's definitely a must buy for this year for sure. Brad, what's going on, man? 1911 Guitar Dude. Hi, checking in late. Just got back from a road trip to the City of the Living Dead, aka Svanjor. That's awesome. Checking out some filming locations. Yeah, I know Matt's been there. Landrum's checked out those locations and done some side-by-side comparisons that were pretty cool to see. I'd love to get down there and check those out because I do love City of the Living Dead. But very cool, man. I hope you had a good time. Hope you enjoyed yourself. But yeah, thanks for dropping in. Dirk says, no, it's not too late. Check the description on my last slide. There you go. There you go, Steve. You got it on second try. It's Morris. Like Morris. Okay, I gotcha. Morris. I like that. It's good. Are you looking forward to the new Return of the Living Dead? I don't know if I'd say looking forward to it, but I am morbidly curious. Or which one are you talking about? Are you talking about the Tarman Christmas special or the Trash's Revenge that Linnea Quigley's trying to get off? Because I don't know. I'm guessing I've kind of heard rumors that the Linnea Quigley one's actually kind of going to happen. So I don't know. I don't know if I'd say like looking for, because I mean Return of the Living Dead. I mean they've done sequels and stuff to that movie, but Return of the Living Dead is so unique and so cool. And Ed actually tagged me and Larry, I believe, on something on Facebook. It was an interview in 1985 with Dan O'Bannon and George A. Romero because they had Day of the Dead and Return of the Living Dead coming out. And you could tell just like reading George's interview that he was just not, he's like, I've seen Return of the Living Dead and I'll just keep it at that. And he's just not a fan of it. But I love Return of the Living Dead. Like, I think it's a genius movie. It's like one of those 1 in a million movies where everything just works in a weird way. Like the effects, the music, the acting, the performances. I mean, the James Cairns and like, you can't go wrong. The dialogue is hilarious. So it's like one of these, and then there's sequels like Part 2's all right, 3's okay, and then 4 and 5 not so much. So I don't know. You just can't redo something like that. But it is what it is. I'm more looking forward to 28 Years Later. To be honest with you, I think that's probably my next like movie that I'm gonna go out of my way to go to the theater and see. Matt says, I'm in Meshuggah's Destroy, Erase, Improve was my jam back in the day. Future Breed Machine is one of the best opening tracks in metal. There you go. I thought you might be a fan of Meshuggah, but I wasn't sure. I'm entered. Fucking A. Pull some strings, Dirt. Hook a brother up. Suzanne says we'll have to grab that 990 when it's released. First I'm learning of it, actually. Yeah, I mean, it's been in the work. I mean, it's been in talks. I've been talking about it for the last couple of years. I know Felsher was working on it a couple of years ago. Was working on some of the bonus features. So I'm guessing there's going to be a full-length doc on it. I'm hoping. That's my hope. Because the only thing we've ever really gotten on 990 was that short, what was it, like a 15-20 minute documentary on the night DVD from way back in the day, and outside of that we've never really got anything else. And I know there's like hours and hours and hours of behind the scenes VHS footage from that shoot, so there's a lot to work with, and I'm guessing that Felsher's going to put together something pretty damn cool for it, and some more commentary tracks. So the only commentary track we ever got for it was the solo track with Savini on that DVD, as far as I know. There may be another one out there, but the only one that I'm aware of is the Savini commentary. So another, 1 or 2 commentary tracks would be awesome with some of the cast and some of the crew. But yeah, definitely looking forward to that. John says, another incredibly interesting thing I had no idea was Leighton/Laurel were still doing commercials after 1973, even until the company folded. I always thought it stopped after the Winners. Yeah, I know. Yeah, I guess I don't think they were doing as much, but I think at that point, if especially after the Crazies hadn't, made, taken the world by storm or anything like that, I think that was just, I think it's a big reason why George took the amusement park and wanted to do the amusement park. I think he liked the story and everything, but they were still just in survival mode at that point, trying to find new projects. I think a lot of the commercial business had kind of dried up at that point. I think a lot of it had gone to New York and LA by the early to mid 70s, but they had to pay the bills. Modelo. All right, all right. It's not the Iron City, but I'll accept it. I'll accept it. Robert said it really fucked me up when the lead singer of Soundgarden died. I drank a lot. I don't know why. Yeah, that was a weird one, wasn't it? That was an interesting one because that was about like right around when Soundgarden had just kind of reformed and were kind of touring again and all that. Yeah, that was didn't see that one coming. What a talent, you know. Some of my favorite performances Chris Cornell ever did were like it was just like he would show up on Stern, like on Howard Stern, and just do like some solo acoustic performances of stuff. And that was probably some of the best musical stuff that Stern ever had on that channel, in my opinion. Um, Suzanne said there were quite a few musicians that passed recently that made me feel like a part of my childhood / young adulthood went with them. Yeah, I've talked about that a couple weeks ago when I was talking about David Johansen passing away, and speaking, um, he was in Tales from the Dark Side, the movie, and all that. But I mean, when I was younger, like when I was a teenager, like I knew him from New York Dolls, and now like he was the last one standing, and now they're all gone, and it's just like, goddamn, where'd that all go? Because I remember when they like reformed, like in the mid to late 2000s. But yeah, it's a bummer. Let's stop talking about getting old, guys. Come on. You guys want to watch the amusement park again tonight? Let's do it. Mayor says Alice in Chains is the only one of the top 4 that I haven't seen live. That's cool, man. Seeing Nirvana live, I would kill for that. I was too young at the time, but I would have loved to have seen them live, especially like early Nirvana, like Bleach, the Bleach album, that time period, like seeing them in the little, dinky dive bar and all the shitholes they were playing at the time. Stone Temple Pilots. I like Stone Temple Pilots. I kind of like some of their later stuff more, like Down and Sour Girl and stuff like that. When they kind of their sound kind of changed, but yeah, I mean, they're one of those bands that has like a ton of hits that you don't realize how many they have until you hear them. You're like, oh shit, they did that. Hey, what's up, Steven? Steven Newstrack Jr.'s in the house. Says, of course, Elvis comes first, but one of my favorite 90s bands is STP. There you go. Right there on The Crow, 1994. Yeah, the Crow, 1994. There's a lot of good shit on the Crow soundtrack. Cure, Nine Inch Nails. That's a great soundtrack. Figured I'd tie it into horror / comic movie. There you go. That works. Suzanne got to see Chris Cornell and Audioslave, but missed out on Soundgarden. I liked Audioslave too, man. I know that people were like, oh, this isn't Rage Against the Machine. And I'm like, yeah, it's not, but it's different. It's like Rage Against the Machine with a different, I don't know, vibe to it. I don't know, but I dug it. I don't know. Yeah, I've noticed we got a lot of STP fans in here. Robert says, I don't understand. Everyone thinks the new Return of the Living Dead is a remake. It's actually meant to be a sequel. I don't know if it's is it supposed to be a sequel? Because, I mean, I did see the Tar Man walking through a cemetery carrying a Christmas tree or whatever the fuck in that little teaser trailer that they did. And if I remember correctly, in, Return of the Living Dead, Tar Man got his head knocked the fuck off. I'm gonna knock his fucking block off, as Clu Gulager says. So yeah, I don't know what the hell it was supposed to be. I just saw Tar Man dragging a Christmas tree across a snowy cemetery, and I was like, all right, I guess. Which I don't even think there's a difference anymore. I don't think they differentiate remake, reboot, or sequel, or any of that anymore. It just kind of all blurs together. It feels like most things now are like a sequel remake. Requel, I think is what they call it, actually. But we'll see. Who knows? Yeah. Return of the Tar Man. Love the first 2, 3 grew on me. Can't wait for 28 years later. Yeah. That's definitely going to the theater to see that one. John said when I meant when the company folded, I was referring to Laura. Oh, okay. Yeah, they were still doing commercials into the late 80s. I didn't know that. I didn't know that they were still doing commercials into the late 80s, but that's pretty cool. Temple of the Dog. Yeah, that's a good one, Robert. I forget about them sometimes. That was the 90s super group. Steven says Scott's cover of Revolution by the Beatles was a personal favorite on Stern. I don't know if I heard that one. I bet I have. It's been a while since I remember those being played on there. Dirk says, I believe Cornell's last song was The Promise, and man, that song with the video hit me pretty hard first time. The Promise. That one doesn't ring a bell either. Is that a Soundgarden song? Or is it that one song from When in Rome from the 80s? I promise you. I'm sorry, but I'm just thinking of the right words to say. I'm gonna sing, guys. I'm gonna sing it. That's the one I think of. Sturgill Simpson does a version of that too. That's pretty awesome. Robert says Bleach is great. When I was a teenager, I got a guitar because it was supposedly the guitar Kurt Cobain used. Very cool. Yeah, but like learning to play guitar like Nirvana was my big inspiration as well. Rick saying this is the grunge Billboard 100. Yeah, it did take a turn into grunge land, but what the hell? We're all just podcasting, bro, as they say. Bonnie says I was too broke when I was young to see many concerts. Some of the best concerts to go to are the ones that cost $5 to get in. Like a lot of the times, I would rather spend $5 and go see a bunch of local shitty bands down at the local bar here than spend $100 to go see some big band on a big stage. Like I've seen bands that I love and we're just like, oh my god, like I can't wait to see them. And you see them in like a big arena setting or something like that, and it's just like like this is fun, but I would rather like this would be so much better in a small club or something like that. Like Black Keys are one that comes to mind. I went to see the Black Keys live, and that's definitely a band that I think would just work better in a smaller venue, because they were playing in an arena, and it just didn't. I don't know. It just didn't feel right. That's a cool one, Bonnie. Taking my daughter to see Nick Cave and the Bad Seeds Tuesday. My first concert in years. That should be fun. Have fun with that. That'd be pretty cool. I'd love to see Nick Cave and the Bad Seeds live. I haven't been to a concert in a while, or even just like even a show. Hey, what's up, Jeff? Down is up. It says, hey, Michael, and everyone in the chat. Hope everyone is well. Hope you're doing well too, my man. And Paul Brooks is in the house. What's up, Paul? It says, also looking forward to 28 years later. I think they're doing 2 or 3 movies for that. Possibly. I mean, how many more can you do? You do 28 years later, 28 decades later, 28 centuries later. I mean, where do you go? Justin, have I done a collection tour? I haven't. I've thought about doing that. I typically just kind of pull things out every now and then, but that may be something I might do here soon. Just kind of go through, because I got a whole room of shit up here and shit stored away in boxes and binders and shit that, it'd probably be it'd be kind of hard to pull it all out and show it on here. So that's a good idea. I might do something like that here soon. Barb says, last concert I went to was free for me and my old girlfriend, Matchbox 20. They were amazing. That's cool, man. Like Matchbox 20. I won't do anything at all. That's like the Matchbox 20 that I grew up on, was that first album, Push and 3 a.m. and all that shit. Robert's saying they've already filmed the sequel to 28 Days Later, and they were back to back. Okay, interesting. We'll see. I don't know how I feel about that usually when people do that with movies. Like they're like, oh, we're planning kind of like that Exorcist, when they did Exorcist Believer, and then there were supposed to be 2 more, but then Exorcist Believer was just not a huge hit, so they just said, nah, fuck that, we're not doing that again. So, we'll see. We'll see what happens. Sometimes it works better that way, to do things back to back, like X and Pearl. I thought that worked perfectly, but you can go either way. And Jeff says, who was the first person you met from any of the Living Dead films? The first person that I met, and it wasn't even like, it was just kind of an accident. We were walking in, it was 2008, not Living Dead weekend, but Texas Frightmare weekend. And we were both walking into the hotel at the same time. But the first one I met was Greg Nicotero. He was getting out of a car and walking in as we were walking in, and I turned to my cousin. I'm like, "Holy shit, it's Greg Nicotero!" And she's like, "Oh, go talk to him." Okay. So we're walking. He's in front and we're behind, and I was just like, "Hey, Greg," just like nerd. He's just like, "Hey, guys, what's up? What's up?" I was like, "Hey, been looking forward to this for a while, looking forward to talking to you." He was like, "Oh yeah, man, I'll be in here. I'll be in here." That was the first little interaction I ever had, and you couldn't have been nicer. So yeah, Greg was the first one, and then the second one I actually met was Robert Joy, because he was in the hall eating breakfast or whatever as we were walking into the hotel. He was sitting at a table eating breakfast, and I was like, "Holy shit, it's Robert Joy!" I'd love to see Robert Joy He hasn't done many, if any, conventions since then, I don't think, because this was 2008. This was shortly after Land of the Dead. So I mean, it is the anniversary of Land of the Dead this year at Living Dead Weekend. It'd be great to get him, but I'm pretty sure he's still working and doing things, and probably doesn't have much time. But that would be a great get that I'd love to talk to, because I mean, not only Land of the Dead, but he also did Dark Half as well. Bent Matchbox 20, hell yeah. Mayor says, wasn't 28 days supposed to be how long until the infected would starve? I seem to remember that at the end of 28 days later. Possibly. I'd have to go back and watch that again. I don't remember what they say on that. I don't think they ever came to a consensus on how long it took for them to starve out. I know that the movie starts 28 days later after the infection breaks out and breaks loose from the monkey farm or wherever the fuck it was. Because then it says 28 days later, and then it cuts to Jim waking up in the hospital. So that's very possible, though. They could kind of go, I don't remember that specifically, but you may be right about that. Justin says top 5 horror directors. So, of course, Romero's 1. Easy. 2 horror directors is Dario. Argento's probably 2 on that list in terms of horror directors. 3, I'd have to go with I'll go with Carpenter at 3. Carpenter 3. Okay, yeah, I'll go Carpenter 3, Cronenberg 4. If you count Cronenberg as a horror director, which I do. But Cronenberg would be 4. I kind of go back and forth between Cronenberg and Carpenter sometimes, but I'll go Carpenter, Cronenberg, and then 5, Mark Borchardt. Coven, man. Coven sounds like oven, and you just can't have that. Robert says when the dogs do find her, got time to wait. Okay, so you're quoting fucking Temple of the Dog. All right. I was like, oh, Robert's having a series of small strokes here. Somebody check on him. That makes sense. I got you. Mayor says now Nicotero hung out in your chat. It all went full circle. Yeah, it kind of did. I mean, I could tell the first time I met him that Nicotero was cool as shit and like just a huge fan. Not just like a celebrity, quote unquote, but just as big of a fan as we are of this shit. So, but yeah, that was pretty damn cool. Mayor said, yeah, they showed the infected starving at the end. Yeah, I know they showed it at the end, but yeah, because at the end, after they crash into the fence, it does say 28 days later again, and then that's kind of when you see, yeah, you're right, you're totally right, Mayor. You're right on point. Liquid Cooler, what's going on, man? That's a new name. It's a cool ass name, though, I gotta say. I like the visual there. 20 Days Later is timeless. The atmosphere is everything. Yeah, I love 20 Days Later. It's one of my all-time favorite horror films, and just one of my all-time favorite theater experiences as well. Like going to see that when it first came out with my dad, because I mean I was into zombies, but nobody had seen zombies like that quite yet. And I know a lot of the people in the theater walked out and they weren't fans of it. They didn't like it when they saw it originally. I remember hearing people like, "Oh, that was the stupidest fucking movie I ever saw." Like, what was that? But like me and my dad just kind of looked at each other and were just like, "That was fucking awesome," you know. So yeah, I love 20 Days Later. I have a special place in my heart for it, and it was probably one of the more like inspirational films for me growing up as an aspiring filmmaker. No Fulci, blasphemy. Fulci's up there, man. Like I say, Fulci's top 10. He might be 6 or 7. I like Craven. I really like some of Craven's films, but his work as a whole, there's a lot of shit in there. But man, Last House on the Left, Hills Have Eyes, Nightmare on Elm Street, Scream. I mean, those are the big obvious ones, but he had some other good stuff. Like People Under the Stairs is pretty good, but like there's just a lot of bad shit in there as well. That I just never was a fan of. Hooper, Toby Hooper's all right. Like I love Texas Chainsaw. Like that's one of my all-time favorite horror movies. Period. But again, with Toby, there's just a lot of bad shit in there. I'm trying to think if I'm forgetting anybody. Even some of the more modern stuff. Like I'm a huge Ari Aster fan. I'm unapologetically a huge Rob Zombie fan as well. I don't care. I think his movies are exactly what I'm. In this day and age of all the shit that gets made and gets put out there, at least give me something different. Give me something that nobody else on earth could make other than Rob Zombie. Good, bad, or indifferent, I don't give a shit. Like, I can point to that movie and say, oh, that's a Rob Zombie movie. I can tell by the art direction, the dialogue, the music choices, whatever. So yeah, there's just some off the top of my head. Mark Borchardt, for those of you guys that don't know, is the dude from American Movie, did Coven and all that. But and American Movie, just I love that fucking documentary. Matt says figured Cronenberg would be in my top 5. Yeah, I mean, like I said, it goes back and forth between Cronenberg and Carpenter. Cronenberg's one of those that's like, I like pretty much everything he's ever done, but I only really love 1 or 2 of his films. Like Shivers and Videodrome, I absolutely love, and I can put on and watch at any time. But there's a lot of his stuff that I got to be in the right mood for, and really, like The Fly's okay. And I wasn't a really big fan of, I will say I'm not a big fan of the Dead Zone. That movie just didn't work for me for some reason. It didn't feel, it was like they took Cronenberg and cut his balls off and said, here, go make this Stephen King movie. And I was like, I don't know, that ain't for me. Naked Lunch, I fucking love Naked Lunch. That's one I just saw here for the first time recently. Huge fan of that one. That one blew me away the first time I saw it. And then a lot of his stuff here recently, take it or leave it. Some of it's good, some of it's like, it's kind of like Carpenter says. It's like, Cronenberg used to make some really good horror movies, and now he's gone on, and now he's making art films. So I don't know, but same with Carpenter. There's quite a few Carpenter films I love, but there's some stinkers in there as well. I'm quoting Stone Temple Pilots for something. Yeah, is that what that was? Where the dogs go find her. Got time to wait for tomorrow. That's my butt rock voice. Yeah, you're right. That's right. That's totally Stone Temple Pilots. Mayor says, but since the movie was a hit, they must have changed their mind for the sequels of 28. Yeah, I don't know how they're gonna do 28 years later. That's a good point. I don't know how they're gonna justify that. I hope they don't just kind of gloss over the idea that they all starve out. But who knows? Who knows? I did think of that the other day. Steven says, I believe Robert was quoting STP. Plush is the song. That's right. That's right. What's the one? I've been on here for an hour. We haven't gotten to anything yet, but what's the one that's, we're just sitting here singing and talking about Stone Temple Pilots. The one, probably my favorite Stone Temple Pilots song was Take Time with a Wounded Hand, 'cause I like to heal. That's a good song. I remember the first time I found that on LimeWire, it was listed as Nirvana, Half the Man I Used to Be. So I always, like, when I first heard that song, like when I was 13 or whatever, I was like, oh wait, this is a Nirvana song? Cool, all right. You gotta beware of those LimeWire and WinMX fucking downloads back in the day. A, because they were probably filled with viruses and God knows what. But B, a lot of that shit was mislabeled, and you go through life thinking that's a Nirvana song. Dirk Fulci is third for Dirk. Yeah, Fulci's probably 6, 7, in my top 10. But again, with Fulci, it's like there's some stuff I really love and some stuff that I'm just like, ugh, it's tough to get through. Hell yeah, Rick. Rob Zombie is the ultimate, absolutely. Mayor says, I can't believe that they're releasing 20 days later on 4K. It was shot on mini DV, so DVD is the only format that... Yeah, the Blu-ray looks like shit. I don't know what they're doing with the 4K unless they're using AI or something, because there's no, like, original film elements to go back to or anything like that. So I'm guessing they're just using, like, AI or something to digitally upgrade it, maybe? I'm curious to see what that looks like. I'm definitely going to be getting that Steelbook when it comes out on 4K. It's coming out right around the same time that the movie 28 Years Later is coming out, which is perfect marketing. But yeah, I'm curious what the hell that's going to look like. I would say it could be a complete fucking disaster, where everything just doesn't look kind of like, some of the complaints that people had with James Cameron stuff that just got released, the True Lies and all that. It could look completely shitty, or it may look okay because it's not AI. They're not using AI to enhance film. They're using AI to enhance a digital format already, so maybe it works. I don't know. I'm curious. We'll see. I'm looking forward to it. Matt says, how do you feel about Dead Ringers? Everyone always talks about Scanners, The Fly, Videodrome, but never hear anyone talk about Ringers. That's one that I've seen twice. First time, I didn't like it at all. Second time, I liked it a little more. So I'm thinking I need to go back and give it another watch, because that seems to be a typical thing for me and Cronenberg a lot of the times, is it takes multiple viewings for me to really, like, get it. Videodrome was kind of like that the first time I saw it. Like, I was like, oh, there's some interesting stuff in here. There's some cool visuals, some good effects. But I don't get it. Like, what is this about? And you watch it a few more times, and now I've seen it so many times that I love the fucking movie. So yeah, it's one I need to go back to. I think the performance Jeremy Irons gives in it is pretty incredible, playing the two roles like that of the twins. But again, it's just one of those movies that, like, even the second time I saw it, I was just like, there's something about it that just doesn't click for me. But Naked Lunch was one that the first time I saw it, I was like, this is fucking brilliant. Like, this is Cronenberg. It's like Cronenberg's version of Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas, or like one of those weird trippy ass movies where you never really know whether you're in reality or whether you're... And it's a movie about drug use and drug abuse. It is all it is. It's really a movie about... It's if Cronenberg did a movie about a writer who was going through drug problems, like, this is what it would be, and it's unlike anything you've ever seen before. Yeah, I love Naked Lunch. That's maybe in, like, top 3 Cronenberg for me. Mayor says Mark was also in Cabin Fever 2 at the end of the movie. I've never seen Cabin Fever 2. I've never seen Cabin Fever. Eli Roth's just one of those directors that I'm just not like, I gave him a shot when The Green Inferno came out. I was like, because I loved Italian cannibal movies, and when that came out, like, I was like, oh, this is gonna be fucking cool. Like, they're making another one of these movies. So I gave him a shot, and I was just... that movie was so fucking bad. I was just like, okay, I'm done with Eli Roth. But I don't even think he did Cabin Fever 2, did he? But he did do the original, right? Dirk says, yeah, it definitely doesn't need a 4K. That's a cash grab bullshit. It may be. But like I said, the fact that they're using maybe AI on a digital format, maybe that'll work, as opposed to trying to use AI to clean up a actual film, because then it just kind of looks, looks a little wonky. But who knows? We'll see. Oh, we got a random Vinegar Syndrome rant. I'm always down for that. This is a random rant, but fuck Vinegar Syndrome. Their customer service is dog shit now. Sorry, y'all. There you go, Dirk. Get it out. Get it out of your system, my man. You've had a rough weekend with no internet. And trust me, dealing with my fucking internet, I get it. I totally get it. So rant away, man. And yeah, I'm pretty pretty with you there. I'm not the biggest, which I don't really have any issues with their customer service or anything. I haven't bought a whole lot from Vinegar Syndrome, to be honest with you. But I do think just it's getting out of hand. Like the pricing and just some of the shit that they're releasing, it's just like, seriously, like, come on. Rob says poor John Carpenter looked like he was 60 in his 20s. It's funny as shit because John Carpenter, like, maybe outside of George, but I didn't think George could hold a candle to how much John Carpenter smoked back in the day. I don't think he still does, but he was a chain smoking motherfucker back in the day, and he's outlived everybody. He's outlived George, Wes Craven, Tobe Hooper. It's basically him and Cronenberg are the two left standing at this point. And he just got inducted, or had the star on the Walk of Fame. I don't know if you guys watched that or not, but he's still just like, just fucking rebelling. Like, he didn't give a shit anymore. I love John Carpenter for that. He was telling the dude that was like introducing him to hurry the hell up, get off stage. Like, he's ready to, I'm hungry, let's get the fuck out of here type of thing. I was just like, I hope I live to be that old so I can just be that fucking free to just tell people just like, I'm John Carpenter, fuck off. Get off the stage. Let me make my speech so we can get out of here and I can go eat. Which he was probably high as hell. He had sunglasses on the whole time. So he's probably had a bad case of the munchies. Mayor says, I heard that it looked awful on Blu-ray, so I'm glad that I never upgraded my 28 days DVD dirt. Yeah, the Blu-ray looks pretty goddamn bad. And I've sold like 2 or 3 of those Blu-rays over the past couple of years for buttloads of money, like $60-$70 for those old Blu-rays. Just because they were out of print and people were dying to find them. So now that this 4K's coming out, I'm sure those prices will go back down. But yeah, DVD's pretty much the best way to go when it comes to 28 days later. To this point, like I said, I don't know what the 4K is going to look like, but I'm curious. Liquid Cooler says Fulci's Zombie had a bittersweet ending for me. I'd love to have seen those zombies in the streets of New York. Yeah, it seemed like it was set up for a perfect sequel, but that is it is a great ending. But yeah, you kind of I don't know how that would. I feel like those zombies may only work on an island. Do you know what I mean? Like the slow, marauding, goopy zombies. I don't know. That just fits so well for me in like a rough terrain, like an island or something like that. But I don't know. That's right. Speaking of Stone Temple Pilots, Scott Weiland is died too. I kind of forgot about that. Yeah, Creep is what it's called. I figured that out years later. Paul Brooks says Mark Borchardt is also great in a little indie horror flick called The Hagstone Demon. I actually have that on Blu-ray, just because Mark's in it. I wouldn't say it's a great movie or anything, but Mark is definitely fun to watch in it, that's for sure. Napster, yeah. Napster was a good one. I think by the time, though, that I had kind of discovered those sites, I think they'd pretty much cracked down on Napster, so we had like LimeWire, Winamax. There was another one, I can't think what it was called, but yeah, Napster was like where it started. That's where the decline began. Hey, I could be a new singer of STP. I could be. I could pull it off. STP Big Empty, also a part of the Crow soundtrack. Yep. Robert says, I love Rob Zombie's Halloween movies. People are stupid for giving him so much crap for redoing Halloween. Well, I mean, it was a win or a lose-lose situation for Rob Zombie. I mean, the first film was successful. It made money enough for them to beg him to come back and do a second, which he didn't even want to do part 2, but they threw enough money at him and told him he can do whatever he wants with it. And he was like, all right, I'm going to do whatever the fuck I want with it then. I'm going to make something completely out of left field. And people weren't too hot about that. But yeah, I mean, it was a lose. I mean, you're trying to do another Halloween film, and it's like he tried to do something different with it and give it his own flavor. I don't know if it worked, whether it did or whether it didn't. That's that's of your collective opinions or whatever. But I think if you're gonna redo something, you should. I'm not a fan of the movie, but the 2018 Halloween that what's his name? David Gordon Green did. It's probably the way to go about it. Just be as fan servicey and harken back to the original as much as possible. But yeah, I don't know. I like it, but let me skip around on these comments, and we'll get to a couple of topics here. I wanted to kind of talk about some Living Dead weekend guest updates, and then we'll skip on to the what are they segment of this, because I think this will be fun. It's kind of an interesting fan theory. I want to hear you guys' theories on this. Where did these people come from? Why did they come here? But yeah, I'll get back to the comments here in just a second. I want to talk about get it pulled up. Just spitting everywhere. There's something floating around in there. I'm gonna file a complaint with Pittsburgh Brewing Company. But I wanted to take a look at the newest updates for Living Dead weekend, some guest updates, because we haven't really talked about them here recently. But there have been quite a few announcements. And something that hasn't been announced yet that I don't think, that I noticed on the website earlier looking at it, that let you guys know about. Let me see here. There we go. Oh, that works. But yeah, we're a little over a month away from Living Dead weekend. And that's crazy. It seems like yesterday. Like, it seemed like it was no time at all that we were, coming home, and I was just bummed out. Like, oh man, coming home from Disney World. But yeah, June 6th through the 8th, 2025, the Dead are alive. Living Dead weekend, Monroeville. Doing Night of Living Dead. It's basically the big zombie reunion night, dawn, day, land 20th anniversary. Which they haven't announced too many Dawn guests at this point. Like, Paul Musser will be there. And of course, there's some crossover guests from like Day and that were also in Dawn, like John Amplis and Savini and those guys. But like I said, we still got a month, and they typically start adding a lot of guests, like right near the end, to get everything secured and nailed down. But yeah, June 6th through the 8th, 2025. Tickets are still on sale. I think the VIP tickets are still sold out. I did see Kevin Kreis mention something on Facebook about maybe opening up some more VIP tickets. So yeah, VIP pass, $150. Yeah, $150 for a VIP. Those may be sold out still. It doesn't say here, but go back. But yeah, I just want to look at some of these guests. Talk about a couple of these new guests, because some new faces that have been added to this year's event. Pretty cool lineup so far. So for the Day of the Dead 40th anniversary, you got Jarlath Conroy, Laurie Cardill, Terry Alexander, Tom Savini, Howard Sherman, Bub, of course. Which, speaking of Bub, he actually sent me something I'm going to play here in just a second. Nicotero will be there. We got Mark Tierno, John Amplis, Deborah Gordon. This is pretty damn good-sized Day of the Dead reunion. Got Mike Gornick, Jeff Monahan. That's a cool name to finally get at one of these, because he worked with George on a lot of stuff there, especially through the late 80s and 90s. He was also in Bruiser, in one of the supporting roles in Bruiser. Mike Ankus will be there. He'll be selling copies of his new Chasing Zombies documentary on Blu-ray. So if you haven't checked that out yet, I definitely recommend. Even if you don't buy it, just stop by and talk to Mike, because Mike is a really, really fun dude to talk to. You got Dave Fagor. Bill Lasco is going to be there. Ralph Langer. Make sure to stop by Ralph's table wearing your MAGA hat. He will appreciate that. Hermie Granati. This is some of the new guests that have been announced. Hermie Granati, for those of you who don't know, as you can see, was the floppy hat zombie. That's what I always called him. Floppy hat zombie in Day of the Dead. But he was also a member of the band G-Force. who played the rap party back in the day when Day of the Dead finished rapping. They played the rap party. Him and his other bandmates were in the film as well, and I think they still play as the Granati Brothers. I still think they still play gigs around the Pittsburgh area. So that would be kind of cool to get them all back together to play maybe the VIP party or something like that. That's what I would go for. But yeah, I thought that was a pretty damn cool guest ad there, as not just the zombie, but the fact that maybe talk to him about what was the rap party like. Any good stories from the rap party? Did Tom Savini get drunk and fucking climb the roof or something like that? But yeah, very cool. And then Ned Johnstone, that's a new name. I don't know if I've ever seen him do a convention before as one of the zombies from Day of the Dead. Very cool to have him. George Dimick is going to be there as well. Looking forward to talking to him after seeing Brandon's documentary and hearing him talk about his experiences and relationship that he had with George. Never actually had an opportunity to really talk to George too much. I think I may have spoken to him one or two words outside of the DoubleTree one night, but outside of that, I've never really talked to him. So I'm looking forward to hopefully getting a chance to talk to him a little bit this year. And of course, Michael Tommaso, Mailbox Zombie, will be there, and he's the nicest guy in the world. So if you've never met Michael, definitely stop by his table and talk to him. And then, of course, you got your Night of the Living Dead reunion here. Judith Ridley, Kyra Schoen, Judith O'Day, John Russo, Russ Striner. Hell of a reunion there. And then you got your Land of the Dead reunion here with some cool names. Eugene Clark, Big Daddy will be there, of course. Sean Roberts is going to be there. I think this is his first appearance at a Living Dead weekend. That'll be pretty cool. Not only was he in Land of the Dead, but he was also in Diary of the Dead as well. So some Romero ties there. And then right here in the middle from Land of the Dead is Gino Crognali. I think that's how you pronounce his last name. Crognal. But he's actually a good friends with Nicotero and has been in a ton of shit in terms of like stunt work. He was in the Creepshow TV series, Walking Dead, Chainsaw 2, Elm Street 3. He's also in Frankenhooker. From Dusk Till Dawn. He's pretty much been used in almost anything Nicotero's worked on, it seems like. But yeah, Larry messaged me the other day and gave me the heads up that they had gotten him, and I was like, oh, that's pretty damn cool. Because he's, like I said, he's been on sets of tons and tons of movies. So it'd be cool to finally meet him. And of course, Land of the Dead, he was the police officer zombie in the liquor store at the beginning that bites Sean Roberts' arm. So that's pretty cool. And then, of course, Paul Musser from Dawn of the Dead will be there. Definitely stop by and meet Paul if you get a chance. But yeah, so I thought they're adding some pretty cool names, some guys I didn't expect. So yeah, I definitely looking forward to it. But yeah, there's actually like a highlight reel or a sizzle reel or whatever you want to call it of Crognali. I guess that's how you pronounce his last name. That's as good as it's gonna get. I'm just gonna call him old Gino. Hey, Gino Crognali. But yeah, it's on YouTube if you search his name in YouTube and kind of see what all he's been in, what all he's done. It's pretty impressive. And then another thing I wanted to show off here real quick, kind of a follow-up on something we talked about a couple of weeks ago, were these new figures from Trick or Treat Studios, the new Day of the Dead figures. I saw a photo here I'm going to share with you guys of the figures. We looked at the figures a few weeks back, month back, whatever it was. We looked at the figures, and some of them were still prototypes. They weren't painted yet, and you guys were asking, well, are they going to be painted? What are they going to look like? Well, I actually have a photo here of all four painted, fully ready to go, and there you have it. How fucking cool is that? So you got Bub, you got Lori, Sarah here, you got Captain Rhodes looking pissed off, pretty much making the only face that Pilato makes in Day of the Dead. And then of course Dr. Tongue here. But how fucking cool are these? these are going to be a hot commodity, I think, for us Romero fans. And like I said, I believe the Captain Rhodes figure, actually, you can pull him apart, like literally just pull him apart. And I guess there's toy intestines and shit that you can pull out, and a rubber chicken. I don't know what else, but yeah. So here's what they look like. Here's what they're gonna look like. And like I said, they all come with different things. Like I know the alligator and some of the other stuff. So yeah, I'm looking forward to these coming out. It's pretty freaking cool. What do you guys think? What are you guys thinking? Who all's gonna be at Living Dead weekend this year? You got your tickets yet? Are you planning on making the trip? Like I said, this could be the last opportunity. This is, if you've never seen the mall, if you've never been to a Living Dead weekend, this could be it. With all the uncertainty of the mall and Walmart buying the mall, and who fucking knows? So if you've never been, you've always wanted to go, now is the time, as Flyboy typed on the typewriter. Now is the time. Get your ass to Monroeville. Let's see, where was that in the comments here? It goes... Dirk says Rob didn't want to do Halloween, if you hear him tell it. Yeah, he wasn't the biggest fan, but I mean, it's his first opportunity to make a big studio film, quote unquote. Oh, that's right, Mayor. Ty West directed Cabin Fever 2. That's right. I forget about that. I like Ty West too, but I never had any interest in seeing the Cabin Fever movies. Robert says, I respectfully disagree. The Green Inferno was a masterpiece for me. A masterpiece? Really? Come on, Robert. What he was trying to do. Who else has tried to make an Italian cannibal movie in this country? Well, probably because, I mean, you can't make those movies now. I know he tried, and I'm sure he was coming from a good place, because I know Eli's a huge horror fan. But those movies you can't replicate here in the U.S., especially today. For what those movies, Cannibal Ferox, Cannibal Holocaust, Eaten Alive, like you can't do that shit. Like it's basically, it's illegal now, I'm pretty sure, especially here in America. But I get it. Like he tried to make it something, but it just wasn't what he was hoping it to be for me. But Brandon says, funniest piece of trivia is the puffs of smoke in Halloween because John is smoking while filming. There you go. Perfect example of, which I don't even think Romero ever had that issue that I can remember. Mayor says, I just saw on Dawn of the Discs that Carpenter's Dark Star is coming to 4K, but I've never liked that film. I've never seen that film, actually, Dark Star. That's like his first film, but I've never actually seen it. I don't think I'll buy the 4K to see it. Like, that's my thing. Like, I love to see a lot of these movies that are coming out, but I'm not spending $45, $50, $60 just to fucking buy the 4K. Like, I just give me like, whatever happened to the good old days of, $10 DVDs and, even if they were shitty quality, like, at least I could watch it and determine whether or not I want to spend money on upgrading it, But I guess that's why we still have DVDs. Ross said you're describing the new Twilight of the Dead, which I don't even know if it's going to get made. I don't know either. I haven't heard anything since the last time I talked about it on here. So, who knows? Mayor says, I'm definitely getting Arrow's 4K of Zombie. Looks like it has different special features than the Blue Underground edition. I'm probably going to stick with the Blue Underground edition on that. I think it looks fantastic, sounds great. I have no issues with it. I mean, I don't. It's one of those. It's like I don't need a ton of special features. Like commentary tracks and some of the interviews and stuff are fine. And I love Arrow. Arrow does a great job on a lot of their stuff, especially a lot of their UK releases, which I think that one's UK, if I'm not mistaken. Like, I'm a big Arrow fan, but I'm pretty good with the Blue Underground personally. Hey, what's up, Rob? Rob Lucas in the house says, who's a better director, Eli Roth or Rob Zombie? Rob Zombie, by a mile, sir, by a mile. I don't care who knows it. Maybe it's his name, maybe. But I've always been a fan of like White Zombie, love White Zombie, Rob Zombie. I loved his solo stuff. I've always just been a fan of Rob Zombie, period. And when I first saw House of a Thousand Corpses, I was like, wow. And you got to think that was during a period where there wasn't a lot of good out there. And for my taste and my liking at that age and at that time. And then when Devil's Rejects came out, like, forget about it. Like, I was sold 100%. Wow, that's interesting, Rick. Napster's still even online? I thought you said it was still online. I don't think so. I think that was pretty much abolished or whatever years ago. For instance, didn't Twilight of the Dead start filming last month? I don't know. I've heard that. I've heard so many conflicting reports on that. I know they announced some of the cast and of course the director, but I haven't heard anything about it outside of that. So I'm not sure. I've always liked how there was never a definite explanation for it. A little behind. Not sure what you're what you're referring to. Hey, what's up, Ed? Ed Trader Music and Entertainment, late to the party. Hope everyone is well. Hope you're doing well too, man. Trying to figure out what Brandon was talking about, but I like that you have no never a definite explanation for it. Rob says it's crazy that Twilight of the Dead and Return of the Living Dead are both set for release 2025. Yeah, we're getting a zombie resurgence this year, I guess. But again, I haven't really heard too much about that Return of the Living Dead either. Whether that's actually going to get made or if that's going to be like one of those Night of the Living Dead 2 situations. Yeah, I'm not sure, Brandon. I don't know. Like I said, it may be like one of those Night of the Living Dead 2 situations where they record or they film like a teaser trailer for it and release it to see if it garners any interest or any possible investors. And then if it doesn't, it just kind of, all right, let's forget about it. Let's move on. Which is an interesting way of trying to finance an independent film these days, is trying to get the idea out there first and kind of give them a taste and see, like, okay, who wants to invest? But I don't know, we'll see. Robert says no one cares about Night 90 35th anniversary. Well, I mean, we're getting that 4K, and I think that's going to be a pretty big seller. So I think there's a lot of people that care, but yeah, that's interesting. Which they just did a Night 90 reunion, like a big time full reunion at Living Dead Weekend a couple of years back. So maybe they didn't feel like they needed to kind of retread that territory, which is understandable. Yeah, Dirk. You heard me. Let's backslap the shit out of that like button. Like this video, guys. I'll like you guys back. If you like me, I'll like you. That's the deal I propose here. Rob says I saw a couple of teaser trailers for it. It's supposed to be set around Christmas, and I guess it's in production. All right, well, we shall see. We shall see. Brandon says I worked with Ned on George Dimick's proof of concept for Knight Riders 2. Ned was a really nice guy. He works with Dimick. Okay, very cool. Yeah, I've seen some of that. Like, it's some, because I think George usually has that playing at his table, is some of the stuff they were doing, trying to get the Knight Riders 2 thing made, which, I don't know. Do we really need a Knight Riders 2? It is what it is. I just want a good, like, release, like, 4K of Knight Riders. Like, that's what I'm waiting for, is a 4K of Knight Riders with a full-length documentary from Felsher, and, like, give me that. So Rob's a Night 90 fan. Night 90 is king. That was the first one that I saw. Paul saying Chasing Zombies just got a new poster artwork and it looks a lot better. Yeah, I think I did see that on Facebook here recently. Maybe today, yesterday, I can't remember, but I did notice that it did have a new poster. Which I think maybe I don't know who did the original poster artwork. I can't remember. Anybody wants to let me know in the chat if anybody knows. He was interviewed in that documentary, if I remember correctly, the guy that did the original poster. Which I like that one. I thought it was fine, but it was just, Derek, thanks a lot, brother. Appreciate you stopping in. Gotta go, y'all. Have a good one. See you in the funny papers. Well, good luck, man. And like I said, make some things happen. Let me get that beyond 4K. But everybody check out Dirk, Subjective Perspective Collective. Check them out. They do the Eurocrypt podcast over on Dirk's channel, the Subjective Perspective Collective, as well as the Dead Pit channel. So make sure you're checking that out. Brian says, I'm looking forward to Sean Roberts. He played Albert Wesker in the Resident Evil films. There you go. Yeah, he also played Wesker in Resident Evil, which I saw an interview with Sean Roberts on Garf not too long ago on YouTube. That was actually really interesting. Like, at first it kind of felt he was a little, I don't know, like he didn't have much to say about stuff until you got him in talking about, like, the current Canadian, like, film industry. Like, it used to be popping, which is why George, went to Canada, to begin with, because you could get shit made. Now I guess it's a completely different situation, and I thought it was just super interesting hearing him talk about the struggles of being an actor, a Canadian actor now, and the film industry in Canada now. But yeah, interesting dude. I'm glad he's finally starting to make some of the rounds with these Romero stuff. Yeah, the day figures. Yeah, I'm excited about those. Those just look too cool. Too fucking cool. Mayor says, so Rhodes says, choke on him action. That's right. Better than Kung Fu Grip. Absolutely. Yep, Big Daddy's going to be there. You better believe it. Jeff says, wow, I ordered them, but they're not supposed to ship until the fourth quarter of this year. Okay. Yeah, I couldn't remember when they were being shipped or when they were supposedly going to be released. So either way, I'm definitely going to try to pick up all four of those. If nothing else, just Rhodes and Sarah, just because those are the only ones that I've ever seen of them, which I have, some Bub and some Dr. Tongue figures, but I've definitely tried to get all four of those for sure. You're right, John. There are actually some puffs of smoke in Night. But I think it's supposed to be, isn't it? Because like the shot where Ben's got the rifle and you see the puff of smoke, it's supposed to look like the rifle just fired, isn't it? Because I remember in that behind the scenes, like the dailies, don't you see like Russ like taking a hit, blowing the smoke, and then jumping out of frame, just trying to make it look like. But yeah. So I think it was meant to be that way. Yeah, that's right. It's Russ, not George. There you go. Rick says, yeah, he's pretty cool in that movie, Rob. Like the fact that he was a garage auto repair shop before he became a zombie and was still doing the same thing. Which kind of gets to our main topic tonight, actually, of, who were they? Which we could spend. I'll try to get them a little quicker than, because we're already an hour and a half into this sucker, but you know how we get on here and just talking about Stone Temple Pilots and God knows what else. Whatever pops up. More human than human. Yeah. That's my Rob Zombie impression. Yeah. Hell yeah. Every Rob Zombie song. Liquid Cooler White Zombie's cover of Children of the Grave is amazing. Yes, it is. That's a killer version of that song. Rob says, I really want to see House of 1000, the full uncut version, but they say it was lost in a film screening in Argentina or something. Interesting. That would be interesting. I didn't know that. Everything gets lost in Argentina, I feel like. Because isn't that where they said like the Day of the Dead print was lost? It's like, oh, it got lost down in Argentina or South Africa or something like that, which is why they haven't done a 4K of Day yet. Robert says, I just got Night Riders in the mail. Haven't seen it yet. Well, let me know what you think, man. Let me know what you think. Keep an open mind. It's not a horror film, but it is a Romero film, and you can definitely tell it's a Romero film. You're going to see a lot of familiar faces, some pretty cool stunt work. I love it. So let me know what you think, man, when you finally watch it. Mayor says Night Riders doesn't need a sequel. The story was finished at the end. Yeah, I think that 2.5 hour film, I think everything pretty much is there that needs to be there. Rob says, yeah, Big Daddy's great, but have you heard his music? I love you, baby. Which he didn't want to talk about it when I met him at Living Dead Weekend, Evans City, a couple of years ago. I went up to him. I wanted to talk to him about his music, and he was just like, "Oh, okay, yeah. So, what do you want to buy?" You know, I'm just like, "Oh, nothing. I just want to talk to you about your music." And he was like, "Oh, well, what if I give you this deal?" And I fell into the vortex of Eugene Clark, the salesman. And I was like, "Oh shit." Brandon says there doesn't need to be a sequel to Night Riders, but the script was pretty good and was rather respectful. Pretty much dealt with how the group, Romero's friends, are after the king, Romero, died. That is an interesting concept. I would be interested in that. Because if it's a sequel that's, just, I don't know, man. It's hard to follow Night Riders, but if it is a sequel kind of following that train of thought, it's in the same spirit as Romero's version. And in what Romero was trying to say with the film, I would be, if nothing else, just reading the script, just to see that take on it. Brandon says also dealt with the concept of legacy and those being inspired by the king and becoming the next generation to carry on the dream of King Billy. Obvious subtext to George's legacy. Interesting. Yeah. Yeah, I'd like to read, just if nothing else, read that script. I'd be interested in checking that out. It's an interesting angle on it. John says there's a couple of accidental puffs of smoke on set, but you're correct about the smoke on Ben's gun. Where's the accidental puffs? I'll have to go back and watch for that now. Was it one of the outside scenes? I feel like, if I remember correctly. I don't know. Now I'm curious. Brandon says, I'm now only doing to hear your impersonation when the cinematographer is blaring Rob Zombie music. There you go. Hell yeah! Rick says, I thought Sherry Moon did a good job in the Netflix Monsters, but they should have gotten a different Herman Munster. Yeah, Rob's kind of fallen into that trap of kind of using the same people. It's his wife, Sherry, and what's his name? The guy who plays the fucking caveman in the Geico commercials. Yeah, he's just kind of gotten to the thing, which I wasn't the biggest fan of that Monsters movie. It's just like, this isn't what I was expecting. Well, my daughter liked it. She was kind of into it when we were watching it, so maybe that's who it's for. I don't know. Rob says the Herman Munster was horrendous, especially his voice. Yeah. Yeah, that was kind of because you're so used to Fred Gwynn and just like, hi there. And it was, in Rob Zombies, he was just kind of more of like a dumb, I don't know, like a dumb hipster sounding guy. I don't know. But I did think that Grandpa, what's his name? What's his name? The guy that plays Jay Leno in The Late Shift. What's his fucking name? I thought he did a great job. You guys know what I'm talking about? The guy that plays Grandpa. Trying on the tip of my tongue. Anyway, I thought he was great as Grandpa, but he's like a huge Monsters fan, so I mean, I knew he would kind of do that justice. Hey, what's up, man? TCCK Gaming is in the house. Says, what's up? What's up? Just got back from an event called Spooky Swap Meet. Lots of vendors. It was outdoor. That sounds right up my alley. Because that's the whole reason I go to a lot of conventions anymore. Like if I go to like a Horror Hound or like the Evansville Comic Con here, like that's really the only reason I go is to check out the vendors and stuff like that. So that sounds pretty fucking awesome, man. I'm glad you're able to stop in. Good to see you. Yeah, there's only one Fred Gwynn. Only one Herman. All right. All right, you guys ready to play? Let's do something a little funnier. Like I said, I watched the amusement park on Wednesday and it kind of bummed me out, so I wanted to come on here and do something fun for a change. But I did mention this here real quick. I do want to play this for you guys because if you guys remember, if you guys were in the chat a couple of weeks back, of course we did the King of the Romero Zombies March Madness tournament contest last month to crown the ultimate King of the Romero Zombies. And you guys voted all throughout the month of April. We whittled it down, came down to Flyboy and Bub head-to-head in the finals. And Flyboy came out on top. I think it was like 56% to 44%, 250 votes. So you guys were blowing it up that last week. So it's definitive. I mean, you guys have spoken. Flyboy is the official king of the Romero zombies. But if you remember a couple of weeks back, Bub showed up in the chat. And I don't know who the fuck it was, to be honest with you. But Bub showed up in the chat and was airing some grievances about the contest. And then shortly after that, Bub actually sent me a video response to losing the King of the Zombies tournament contest. And he asked me to play it here on the channel. So I told him I would, and let's just say he didn't take it too well. But here it is. This is Bub's response to coming in second in the King of the Zombies tournament contest. Didn't take it too well, to say the least. But there you have it. I told him I'd play the response, and there you have it. I have a lot of free time on my hands. But anyway, let's talk about. Let's do some fan theories, some theoreticals on some of the most beloved and recognizable zombies in Dawn of the Dead. And I want to hear you guys' theories. Where did they come from? Who are these people before they died and became part of the zombie horde? Because it's just fun. It's mental masturbation. And I know you guys have probably some pretty fucking hilarious theories or concepts or whatever. So I'm looking forward to hearing those. But yeah, what the hell are they? Is what I'm going to call this segment. And let me pull it up here real quick. Let me check chat here real quick. Daniel Roebuck. That's right. Ed. Daniel Roebuck was the count, not Grandpa Munster. Oh yeah, that's right. That's right. You're totally right. I forgot all about that fucking movie. Classic. I'm glad you like that, Jeff. You know, back then in Dawn of the Dead, 1978, they used real explosive charges back then, or sometimes an air bladder. That's right. That's right. Well done. Yeah, like I said, I have way too much time on my hands, guys. Yeah, let me pull up this here. So we're going to take a look at some of these zombies. I want to get your thoughts and your theories on who they were before they were zombies. Before they were dead. That's what we'll call it. That's the name of this Before They Were Dead. But we'll start right here with Miguel. Let me change this here. Miguel, of course, played by Tommy Lafitte, who's still acting and still working in Pittsburgh to this day. But who was Miguel? So, of course, Miguel begins. He's kind of the first zombie bite that we see in Dawn of the Dead. It's the first zombie bite that you see in pretty much any zombie movie that I can think of off the top of my head. But we see Miguel. He's locked in a room in the tenement, in the apartment building. And so he's locked in there with two other zombies. But if you notice, when Roger and the SWAT guys break in, they're attacked by the wild-haired zombie, Renee Banks. But then you see Tommy Lafitte just kind of walk by them and go directly to his old apartment where his grieving, panicked wife runs into his arms. Miguel! Mi feet! Miguelito! And then she gets it twice. So who was Miguel before this? How did he end up in there? Because if you look, so first thing we can look at here is you look and you see no wounds, no bite marks, nothing. He's pretty clean cut. Doesn't look like he's gone through a whole lot. So how did he die? What are your thoughts on that? What are your theories? How did Miguel die in Dawn of the Dead? My theory, this is just a theory, but my theory is Miguel was a good, devoted husband, which is why his instinct kicked in as a zombie to, when the door opened, to go straight back home to his wife. And that's why she fell victim. So I think he was just a good husband in his previous life, his human life. And that's what drew him to his apartment to go after his wife. Nothing malicious, just his instinct told him to. But how did he die? What do you guys think? Because there's no discernible marks here. Did he get sick? Because you got to think, and one thing that really doesn't get pointed out a lot in Romero's zombie films is that you don't have to get bitten to turn. You die, you come back. Like, it's not, that's how it, unless your head gets cut off, or less, you get shot in the head. You die, you come back. So a lot of the people that we see in Dawn of the Dead as zombies are not, messed up, like they were attacked by zombies or anything like that. They're just people that died. Heart attack, stroke, just normal ways people die, because you got to think, like, the death rates on Earth are what that. Imagine in a situation where the dead are coming back to life and the world is collapsing around you and everything's falling apart. The death rates are going to rise, the birth rates are going to drop, and that's really how the world kind of comes to an end. So people are still just dying of natural causes in other ways. I don't think all zombies were attacked by zombies. I don't think most of them were. I think most people that we see as zombies in Dawn of the Dead were just kind of, that's kind of the fun. It's like, how did they die? It wasn't a zombie attack. He obviously wasn't attacked by a zombie or bitten or anything like that. But how did he die? What do you guys think? I don't know. I don't fucking know. But what are your theories on how Miguel died and became a zombie and ended up in that room, locked in that room with the others that were dead and were waiting to turn? How did he end up there? How did he get pulled away from his apartment and his wife and thrown in there? I don't know. I'm fascinated by it. The only thing that I'm 100% certain of is that he was a hell of a husband, because he knew as soon as that door opens, like, I got to get my ass home because I'm gonna hear it. Or there's a darker theory that I thought about, like, what if his wife poisoned him? I don't. What if his wife poisoned him, and that was his revenge, going back to get revenge on her? Like, oh, the bitch poisoned me, I'm going to get her. And maybe she was like regretful that she had done that and was like glad to see him again. I don't know, but I'm just gonna go with the fact that he was a good husband, but no bite marks, no real injuries. How did he die? Maybe he got bitten, maybe a couple of days prior, and it's underneath his sleeve. Because you can see right here, he's got both sleeves down. I don't know. And maybe over time he just got sick and died, just like Roger did. Maybe it's a Roger situation. But yeah, that's kind of my theory on Miguel. What do you guys think? What are your theories? Robert says, before I go to Living Dead weekend, I told my wife that she has to see Dawn of the Dead. It'd be a good time to finally show her. I did the same thing with my fiance before we went. Sat her down. I was like, gotta watch this before we go. Look at him, showing up right on time. Bub, the real zombie king. Thanks for showing that, Alpha. I just subscribed to your channel, but now I need to go and see my Aunt Alicia. Well, thank you very much, sir. I'm glad it worked out that way. I got a new subscriber to the channel, and you got your voice out there heard. So there you go. Good to see you, Bub. Rick Northgoing Llama says, oh, the zombie that took a couple of bites out of his wife at the top of the stairs. Yes, sir. Here's an interesting theory from Ed. Miguel sold TVs at Sears. Interesting. Why do you say that? Just out of a juxtaposition to selling TVs at JCPenney's, which you can get yours now on eBay probably. That's an interesting theory of what he did for work. I'm sure he was a good, hard-working man, good husband. Yeah, they were still probably poor and still struggling to get by, but he was a young man, a young couple, probably, just trying to start their lives together. He married young. I don't think they had any children, not that I know of, but yeah, maybe he did work at Sears selling TVs. Rick says he reminds me of my art teacher from high school, Mr. Olivai. Is that how you pronounce it? Yeah, Tommy's still working, like I said, in Pittsburgh. He's still, I know Larry ran into him on when he was working on, what was it, A League of Their Own? I think for Hulu or one of those streaming services, but he was an extra in that. So, I mean, he's still showing up and working in Pittsburgh. And he'll show up at Living Dead Weekend every now and then for like an hour or two and then leave. He never wants a table or anything like that. Like, he's just like, nah, I just want to come and hang out. Like, I don't want to, I don't need a table or anything. I'm just like, imagine how much money this dude could make at this point. Which I think he's done conventions in the past, but not any recently that I know of. So Mayor says Miguelito was definitely a porn actor, died after filming a gangbang from a heart attack. Okay, so your theory is he wasn't even married. The woman that he was with was probably just like a co-star or co-worker. Interesting. All right. I can see it. I mean, good-looking fella, good-looking dude. And what a way to go out. I mean, what other way would you want to go out, I guess? It says the way Miguel moves his head, he could have broken his neck. That's a good theory too. There's one coming up here that we can talk about that I kind of have my theories of, that he may be a bit clumsy and may have broken his neck, and that's what got him. But it's good point. Very very out of it. I get it. Yeah, I can see it. Robert says, I think in the context of the movie, racist hate black people, so they killed him. So you're saying racist killed him? Well, I mean, Wooly was in there doing that, so you're not too far off. But he was dead long before Wooly showed up, so who knows? Possibly the racist did it. Steven says, one too many Colt 45s. Billy D. Williams, he isn't. There you go. Billy D. Williams. He does kind of look like Billy D. Williams, doesn't he? Bunny says bank teller got spit on by a sick, irate customer. That's interesting. I don't know. So possibly. Because they never really determine how the virus or the sickness spreads. I always just assumed that a zombie bite was just something that would get infected and kill you really, really quick. It's a terrible disease, so it could be in the saliva. It could be something like that. That's a good theory. Rob says he got bit on the foot trying to give the neighbor a cup of sugar for Kool-Aid. All right, this is getting out of control. This is getting out of control. We're gonna move on. This is not. Come on, guys. Miguel was a good, hardworking man and a good husband. Damn it. All right, next on the list. Of course, helicopter zombie, played by the great Jim Crut. Who was the helicopter zombie? And I guess most importantly, why does his fucking head look like that? Outside, like I said, in kayfabe, guys, kayfabe. We're just nerding out here. We're 2 hours into this sucker. We're just nerding out at this point. But in kayfabe, who the hell was this guy? Why was he at the airport? Why does his fucking head look like that? What are your theories? Was he a pilot or a mechanic? Would be an interesting question. To me, he kind of looks like a mechanic to me. So maybe he was an airplane mechanic that worked there on the site. And while he was working, something fell and hit him on the top of the fucking head and killed him. But didn't quite destroy the brain, but hit him hard enough to where the fucking brain swelled and just flattened out into that shape. I don't know. We all know the real reason why it looks like that is because the appliance that Savini used. Tom always talks about the appliance. He would put the appliance. He chose Jim Crut because he said Jim had a tall head, which, compliment or not, but he said we picked Jim because Jim had a tall head. And when we add the appliance to the top of the head, it was perfectly round and all that, but as the day wore on and as shooting, rolled on, the top just kind of slowly started to cave in there to the point where now it's just Frankenstein. He's got the Frankenstein head going on. Which I always thought, like, looking back on it, possibly they could have just shot Jim Crut, all the way up without the appliance, all the way up until he stands up, and then maybe have the appliance in that shot. Maybe that would help, but whatever. It is what it is. It's a memorable looking fucking zombie. And what is his origin story? Where does he come from? That's my thought. Is that he was just like an airplane pilot or a mechanic or something like that worked there at the airport. One bad mistake, something went wrong, bonked him on the head, which would also explain why his head is so tender and easily cut off, because typically you would think, like, if you get hit in the head with a propeller blade, like, your body would probably go flying too, but in this one, his head was so tender and ready to be fucking cut off. I think it's because it was just so swollen and full of fluids and shit. I don't know. I'm not a doctor. I don't know how that shit works, but yeah, that's just my theory. I think he was just a mechanic that worked there at the airport, got bonked on the head, and that's why he looks like that. Now, there's also the idea, the theory, possibly, that he was the father of the two kids that were in the airport that were locked in the closet. That's a possible theory, too. Maybe he locked the kids in the closet, said, "You guys stay here, I'll be back." Maybe they had been bitten previously. Who knows? I guess they would have had to have been to have turned into zombies in the closet, which, there's a joke there somewhere, but I can't think of what it is. But, like, maybe they were bitten. It's like, okay, stay here, be safe. I'm going to go see if I can find help. And he never comes back, and the kids are just, the kids are just there, turning into zombies. Or it could be the airport zombie was the father, which may be my theory, but we'll think about that. But what do you guys think? Helicopter zombie, Jim Crut, where did he come from? Why the fuck does his head look like that? That's right, Robert, the Frankenstein zombie. Rick saying, has anyone watched Black Summer, which aired on Netflix, as far as ravenous rabies-like zombies that turn victims into zombies within minutes of being bit? Did a great job. A lot of running, too. Okay. No, I haven't seen that. Which another good, speaking of Cronenberg earlier, another good Cronenberg film is Rabid. Speaking of, like, ravenous, rabies-like zombies, that's pretty much what Rabid is. It's kind of a, which I've called Shivers Cronenberg's zombie film, but Rabid is pretty damn close to being like a Romero zombie film as well. A lot of it really reminds me of The Crazies a lot. So that's one to check out, guys, if you've never seen it, is Cronenberg's Rabid from 76, 77, if I remember. Early Cronenberg. Steven says, played football without a helmet one too many times. There's a lesson there. That's right. Yeah, that's right. They didn't quite have the technology, the helmet technology that they have now. So yeah, maybe he was just which Jim's a big dude, so he could be I could see him playing tight end or something like that. Makes sense. Oh, this is a good example. Mayor says he was going to a Halloween party as Frankenstein's monster. That's actually not a bad explanation, actually. That would make a ton of sense. Okay, I think Mayor may have the best explanation of helicopter zombie so far. Is that he was actually in costume for a Halloween party. Which would kind of make sense, because, I think this movie, the setting kind of takes place in the wintertime. It's cold, obviously, when they were filming, so it would kind of make timeline sense, I guess, but good one, Mayor. That's a damn good one. It says, I think he could have been the greenskeeper of the airport. That's true. That's true, too. Which I've actually met the actual grounds, the greenskeeper of the airport when I went there a couple years back. He was out there mowing, and he was the one that told me, like, oh, yeah, just go on in. It's like, okay. Very cool guy, very cool guy. I don't think it was Jim, though. I don't think it was Jim Crut. Rick said, I think most of the actors on Black Summer had to do some aerobics to do some of the running for their production. So it's just a lot of running. Interesting. Yeah, I've never heard of that. I know Black Mirror. Isn't there a new season of Black Mirror out on Netflix? You need to check that out. I'm a little bit behind on Black Mirror. Maybe a couple of seasons behind, actually. Rick says, was he a mechanic or a fuel attendant for the airport fuel pumps? Could be. That would make sense of why he comes out of hiding when, kind of like when Big Daddy in Land of the Dead, when Big Daddy comes out, when he hears that noise, he instinctively knows to go out and grab the gas pump. So maybe that's him. When he sees the helicopter land, he instantly sees, oh, I got to get out there and get to work, That's damn good too, Rick. Like it. Very similar to the Big Daddy in Land of the Dead, actually, now I'm thinking about it. You guys are killing it tonight. This is actually, I like these theories. Robert says if zombies run, their legs will snap off. That's right. Romero, George will tell you that himself. Robert, will there be a Diary of the Dead or Survival of the Dead 4K? Dude, at this point, I'm sure some company somewhere will put those out in 4K, because I mean it's such a it's like physical media is such a thing now that they're kind of finding any and everything that they can to release, which I think those movies are owned. I know Diary is owned by the Weinstein Company, so that one may be kind of hard to get a hold of, which they just did the Steelbook for Diary. But Survival, I think, is probably purchasable. Probably do something with Survival. But yeah, I'm pretty sure the Weinstein Company owns the rights to Diary. So that one may be tough. Because that's kind of what been the whole thing with Kevin Smith and Dogma over the past few years, of him trying to get Dogma re-released. Said it was under the Weinstein's control. And now that's finally coming out to 4K. So maybe, who knows? Maybe it'll be up there. It says Dawn takes place in January, 3 weeks after December. The calendar in the kitchen and night says December 1968. And that's always the timeline question, too. Which I know Dawn is not it's not a direct sequel to Night of the Living Dead. And George just said that. It's meant to be a direct sequel to Night of the Living Dead. It's kind of taking place in a world which is experiencing the same catastrophe, basically. But yeah. I get what you're saying, though, because I know in Dawn, he says, it's been 3 weeks. What does it take? So it does make sense, like, month-wise, time period-wise, even though year-wise it wouldn't make a damn bit of sense, going from 68 to 77 or whatnot, or 78 in January. But yeah, okay. I get what you're saying there. It does make sense. I never actually thought about it that way, but yeah, you're right. The calendar in the kitchen at night, December 68. Very true. Although, it is funny because, I mean, at the beginning of night, she said they ought to make the day the time changes the first day of summer. So that kind of throws that out the window, too. And then in the cemetery, it kind of looks kind of fallish, like there's leaves on the ground and shit. So who knows? It's it's out there. It's if you think about it too hard, your head will start hurting. Why a Halloween party? Yeah, maybe he was just dressing up, just to dress up. Who knows? Just a costume party. Maybe it was one of those eyes wide shut parties. Who knows? But there you go. Some good explanations, guys. I kind of dig the mechanic or fuel attendant for the airport. When he sees the helicopter land, he instinctively knows, like, oh, okay, I need to get over there, by any means necessary, even if I lose my head over it. And then Mayor's Halloween party, the Frankenstein costume. I like that. Next on the list, Nurse Zombie, played by Sharon Hill. What is her story? It's kind of an interesting backstory possibility here with Nurse Zombie Sharon Hill. My idea is, I mean, she's a nurse. So when the shit starts hitting the fan and the dead start coming back to life and those hospitals are getting filled up with people that are being bitten and the chaos and shit that's going on around her. Like, she's on the front line. Like, she's seeing the shit, like, from the jump. Or I always kind of feel like that's an interesting part of Roger's character in Dawn of the Dead, is that you feel like he hasn't seen any of it until they get to the apartment building. Because when you first see Roger on top of the building, he's very cool, calm, collected, like, oh yeah, I've been here a million times. You know, he's reciting what, you know, his chief is saying over and smoking the cigarette. He's like, oh, stay cool, don't pop off, you know. He seems like he's prepared until he gets in there and sees what awaits, and then he's like, then he kind of loses. He runs down into the basement and throws up, you know. Whereas I feel like a character like the nurse zombie, she's seen everything from the moment that this whole thing began. So I could totally understand, like, like mentally, she would kind of be one of the first to go, like her occupation as a nurse, you know. So my theory, I kind of feel like she saw so much and kind of, it was such a shock to her that this was going on, that she probably wrote herself a little prescription. And because I mean, if you look at her, you know, the rings around the eyes, like she looks like a worn down. She looks tired. So I feel like she probably just wrote herself a little prescription and overdosed, and just that was her way out. You know, I think that makes the most sense to me. And I love her performance in Dawn of the Dead. It's so over the top, and just the look on her face, like she looks. I've always said that that's the thing about the Dawn of the Dead zombies, like compared to Day of the Dead or Night of the Living Dead or any other. Which Night of the Living Dead maybe a little bit, but Dawn specifically, they just come off as lost souls more so than anything. They're not trying to be like scary monsters, or like they're not all gooped up. There's not a ton of appliances and makeup. Like, they're just gray, blue, whatever you want to call them, but you can still see they're still people. They're still they have character to them now, where you can just kind of pontificate and bullshit like we're doing tonight, and just say like, oh, there's a story here. There's something to this person. Like, where did they come from? Why are they here? And I just think that Dawn of the Dead, there's so much character to the zombies in Dawn, that you can do that too. And I see a lot of it, and just like you just see in her face, like her reactions to things as she's just walking around the mall. It's just like, oh no, like, where am I? What is happening? Why am I here? Like, she doesn't seem particularly motivated to go after, you know, where some zombies seem more motivated than others, if you know what I mean, in terms of going after their meal. And she was just more of like a lost soul, just like, oh my God, like, I'm still here. What do I do? But yeah, and Sharon, if you guys ever get a chance to meet Sharon at a convention, definitely do it, because she's one of the absolute nicest convention guests, people you'll ever meet. At a Romero convention, horror convention, you name it. Wonderful woman. But what do you guys think? What are your thoughts? Nurse zombie, where did she come from? Bonnie says nurse works at the mall. They had meds at the mall. That's true. That's true. That would explain that. Where did they get the morphine from? What store in the mall sells morphine? That's a damn good question. Maybe they did have like a I guess some malls do have like a medical center, not a hospital, but you know what I mean, like a first aid room or something like that. Maybe she was kind of like the just the local nurse there. That's a good theory, and actually kind of ties in some other things, in like the morphine and like where they get that shit. Because I can't think of too many stores in the mall where you could buy just straight up pure morphine. But that's a good theory. Good theory. And Bonnie says no sign of any other emergency crew. That's right. Yeah. Yeah, maybe she was just the local mall nurse. But I still think like, which Ed points out here, it says her outfit is too clean for her to have had a major accident, so I dug the drug angle. Yeah, I think that's what I would kind of go with. Like, how did she die? because I mean she's wearing all white. There's no, it's not like she was mauled by a horde of zombies or had a really like bloody accident or anything like that. I mean, to me, she just looks like she had seen too much, and she kind of knew where everything was going, and that was just kind of her. That was her way out. Was just the handful of the handful of candy, as they say. I don't know who says that, but I'm trying to make it as I don't want YouTube to get mad at me. I'm more mad than they already are. But yeah, I think I like Bonnie. I like her thinking. Like maybe she was like the mall nurse, which would explain why they have morphine on hand out of nowhere. Rob, does eating brains help ease the pain? It's like oil for the rigor mortis. So I've heard. So I've heard from a very ugly woman, but it eases the pain. I always like that theory, that take on it too. That the being dead is painful, and that it eases the pain of being dead. Whether it's eating brains, eating flesh, anything like that. I do like that. Rick says, was there a pharmacy or drugstore in the mall? I don't think so. There definitely wasn't a drugstore. Or maybe there was. I don't think so. I don't think there was a drugstore in the mall, because in that one scene when she's like, yeah, and when you finish off the roll, we'll drop it off at the drugstore, kind of insinuated that there wasn't a drugstore in the mall, so they'd have to take it somewhere else. But I don't think there was. There may have been in like one of those like those shopping centers out behind the mall, where like all Guitar Center and stuff is now, but I don't think there was actually in the mall. Steven says she got PO'd. PO'd. They passed her up for another promotion. Decided to take everyone out with her. Yeah, don't fuck with those nurses, man. Don't fuck with the nurses. And Rick says usually there were no chain store pharmacies or drugstores that would carry refrigerated drugs like morphine. Yeah, the morphine is like, where did that come from? So it would make sense if they did actually have like a first aid medical facility on site there on the mall somewhere. Like, like I said, not a hospital or anything, but something small, just in case there's an accident. Because malls back then, it was kind of, it's almost like there was a gun store in the mall, so which not in real life, but in the movie there was a gun store, so it would make sense that they may have a first aid area just in case. You know what I mean? It says, Rob, when you die, the bacteria in your brain and in your guts activate almost immediately. Bacteria makes the brain come back. Then the bacteria in the gut makes them crave something to eat. Interesting. Look at Ed coming on here dropping some science tonight. I like it. Rob said the pharmacy is selling liquid brain for zombie narcotics. It sounds like you're writing a movie here. It sounds like you're writing your own movie, Rob. Maybe, is this what the Return of the Living Dead, the new Return of the Living Dead is going to be all about? Robert says John Russo was the first credit in Night of the Living Dead. Is he on top? Because I know like it says, well, of course the first credits are actually like Image 10, Latent Image. Then you see Night of the Living Dead, and then the first credit is screenplay by. Is John Russo first on that? That's interesting. Which I guess is fair. I mean, Romero's credited as the director, so if Romero's getting the director credit, give Russo the top billing as on the writing credit. I think that's fair. Rick says the eating brains to alleviate the pain came from Return of the Living Dead. Yeah. I know, Rick. Trust me. We were talking about Return of the Living Dead earlier. Bonnie Bailey says we did have a OSCO in our mall in the 70s and 80s. No clinics that I can recall. Okay. What is OSCO? I'm trying to figure what that is. OSCO. On-site care orderly? That's what I'm going to guess. Am I right? Am I close? On-site care organizer. I don't know. Here you go, Mayor. Mayor says she was hired as a stripping nurse for a bachelor's party. That's an interesting take. I can dig that. So Mayor's saying she wasn't even a real fucking nurse. I can dig that. Night of the Flesh Eaters. Yeah, it is interesting. After Return of the Living Dead, everything was zombies eat brains. So I always thought that was kind of cool. Rick says they had civil defense supplies when they found the spam canned meat. There was probably medical supplies stored for. That's true too. That's true. There probably was for the civil defense barrels in the upper rooms. Larry's in the house. What's going on, Larry? Joining in now. Hey everyone, good to see Larry in here. Yeah, we're talking some zombie origin stories, just kind of nerding out. Like, you know, who were these guys before they joined the ranks of the living dead? Bonnie says Osco is a drugstore chain in Chicago. Oh, okay, there you go. That explains it. Your local references there. So, all right. So basically, we've come to a consensus that Nurse Zombie was actually just a stripper on her way to a bachelorette party, as a nurse. But I don't know. I kind of like the idea that the mall had its own little first aid area, and she was the nurse there. So I kind of dig that. But next one here on the list, and this one's an interesting one. This is the one that I think is, like I was mentioning earlier, that kind of inspired me to want to do this. But the gun zombie, the rifle zombie, played by Jay Stover. What is his origin story? Why is he holding that rifle the way that he's holding it? Now, this zombie's a little different because he does have a wound on his face. He has a gaping hole in the side of his face. Where did that come from? Is that how he died? So my theory, and I always thought this, like I said, Matt brought up earlier that he was an NRA member and he was just a gun enthusiast, which makes total sense. But I kind of think it'd be a little more interesting to take it down the route that maybe he tried and fucked up and just shot out the side of his face and ended up just bleeding. He didn't want to turn into a zombie. He was kind of like Roger. He's like, I don't want to be one of those things walking around like that. He didn't want to be one, so he tried to end it to where he wouldn't come back, fucked up, ended up just blowing a hole outside of his face. He ended up bleeding to death and coming back as a zombie anyway. That's my theory. Now, the whole holding the gun thing, I feel like the last little bit of his memory that he had left before he died was that he wanted to shoot himself and not be a zombie. So my theory is that he's holding the gun the way he is because he's desperately wanting somebody to pull the trigger, or he wants to pull the trigger but can't figure out how, or that's just his lasting memory of life was that. You know what I mean? Maybe a little too deep into that. Maybe it was just like a thing off the cuff. I'm sure on set, like in reality, it was just like an off the cuff thing that Jay or George or somebody thought of, was like, hey, this would be kind of a fun gag. But you know, it just, the way that George kind of approaches the idea that the zombies still have a memory of who they were in a previous life, which we see with Roger and we see with Flyboy, which, you know, they flesh it out more with the main characters, whereas, like, you know, the secondary zombies, you know, the extra zombies, I'm sure they didn't put as much thought into it as we are. I'm like 99.9% sure they didn't put as much thought into it as we do. But it's interesting to look back at, like, what, and it all goes back to, like, why does Dawn work so well for me and for you guys and for anybody that watches or subscribes to this channel? I mean, there's something special about this movie. What is it? And I think even whether it's subconsciously or consciously, like, there's even the smaller things in Dawn, they work on a deeper level, even if they weren't supposed to. It was just kind of, it just felt like everybody was on the same page and they kind of got it. To whereas even, like, I can totally believe that Jay Stover, who worked on the crew and was part of the crew and was part of the making of Dawn of the Dead, he probably understood, like, you know, the story arc of Roger and him not wanting to come back. And when he does come back, it's represented, you can see it in his face, like, I don't want to be here, like, oh, you know. And same with Flyboy and David Imge's performance as the zombie Flyboy. and how every movement that he has as a zombie is based off of the way that he died, like the bites that he endured, or like the twisted ankle from falling from the top of the elevator. But even stuff like this, like simple stuff like this guy over here, this guy over there, that guy. Even simple stuff like Jay Stover and the rifle thing, and even like switching at the end when Peter runs into him and he's got the scope rifle, and he chooses the scope rifle and drops the other rifle. Like, yeah, maybe he just loved guns in his previous life, and he knew that this was a superior gun, a better gun, which is probably what they were getting at with that. But I could totally see it as like, oh, this would be a more powerful, this would definitely get the job done type of thing. Because like I said, I base all this off just listening to Scott Reiniger talk about his motivation for what he was like. Because Reiniger is such a method actor, like he creates like a whole backstory for the Roger character and everything. Like, he's talked about it before, and I'm just inspired by that to just be like, oh, what are the backstories for all of these zombies? And I think that's the beautiful thing about Dawn of the Dead, like I was saying earlier, is that the zombies are such characters in this movie. They're their own individual characters that you remember them 50 years later. Like, you're just like, nurse zombie, fucking, rifle zombie, helicopter zombie, airport zombie. You can instantly picture them, which, I mean, yeah, I know that special effects and makeup and CGI and all that has progressed so much over the years that you can see zombies and stuff now in movies, and they look, they're all goopy and made up, and there's all these appliances and stuff, but I couldn't pick any of them out of a lineup. Like, I don't remember any of them. And even for like Day of the Dead, which Day of the Dead, the effects are great on Day of the Dead. Don't get me wrong. I love the zombies in Day of the Dead, but there's so many appliances and they're so made up in Day of the Dead that they're not as defined as, as the zombie characters in Dawn, in my opinion. But I think it's just because they're such simple. They're still us. They're still just us, and I don't know. But anyway, there's a little ramble about this. But what do you guys think? What are your theories on the rifle zombie here? And then we'll do one more of these, and then we'll call it a night. But I'm having fun with these. I love hearing you guys' theories on these, and I'm kind of afraid to see where you guys are going to go. I didn't mean to take it down a dark path or anything, but it's dark subject matter. Bonnie says same party as the helicopter zombie is where nurse zombie was headed to. Makes sense. Bonnie says he's a prepper at the mall to buy ammo. Interesting. How did he die though? How does he die with the gaping hole in the side of the cheek? That's where I get, like, he tried. He had the same mindset as Roger. Like, I don't want to be one of those fucking things. Like, I'm going out my way. But he fucked up and ended up just blowing a hole in the side of his face and, probably passing out, bleeding out, and then coming back anyway. Mayor says he was a gun salesman at the mall gun store, and he was that good exam. That's good. And he was terrible at the job because he was always holding the gun improperly. And in his last day at work, bang. He just couldn't figure it out. He just couldn't get it right. He was just the worst employee, the worst employee that Gunner's Den ever had. I like that theory that he actually worked at the gun store. Maybe he was the gun store owner. Who knows? I like that. Ed says he looked down the barrel of his gun and shot himself by accident. That's true too. That's very possible too. Because, yeah, that kind of goes back to, like, the last thing that he remembers from previous life. Like, his last memory was, stuck in that position, and that's some, like, weird form of purgatory or something. Steven says he was watching Car 54. Where are you? Died laughing. Okay. Rob says he was an ex-Marine that shot himself in the head after he came home from work. And found his wife and child were zombies. That's okay. That's a backstory for you. That's a backstory for you. Ex-Marine came back from Vietnam. Maybe shot himself. Okay. Because that's always been kind of my theory on Roger's backstory is that he was former military, Vietnam, probably had some PTSD and stuff that, people really didn't, touch on or really talk about too much back then. Especially with the Vietnam veterans that came back. So that's always been kind of my theory on Roger's past, his history, was he was probably a Vietnam veteran and came back with some PTSD that got really triggered by the end of Dawn. The blood in the face will do that for you, I think. But very good, very good. I like that one. Rick says, that was one well-stocked gun / sporting goods store in the mall. Yeah, they were ready for fucking war at Monroeville Mall back in the day. But no, they actually didn't have there wasn't actually a gun store in the mall, which I don't know if that's ever been a thing. I don't know if I've ever seen a shopping mall with a gun store. But that gun store was actually somewhere else off, not at the mall. And I can't remember what it is now, but Larry actually posted, if you check out Larry's WGON TV, he actually posted, he was actually visited that location before. I thought it was pretty cool. I've driven by the outside of it. I've never actually been inside, so. But yeah, I think it's like a paint store or something now. I'm not sure. Rick says the M16 gun zombie was like in one of the last scenes of Dawn of the Dead on the rooftop during the helicopter escape with Fran Peter. Was about to punch the zombie in the face, but the zombie grabs a rifle. That's right. He does make it to the roof. Which is a funny visual, watching him climb the ladder with the gun, trying to make it all work. Let me see. Okay, yeah, Larry says it's a paint store. That's what I thought it was. Yeah, I've driven by. I've never actually been inside, so that was pretty cool to see. I'm having a issue here. Okay, I think we're good. All right. All right, let's do one more here. Get it back up. All right, one more for tonight. Then I got a few more. We'll do it another time. This is pretty fun. Just a little goofy nerd out session for the end of the night. Something fun, something lighthearted after going through the amusement park. But the last one here. Who the hell is this guy? The bathing suit zombie, played by Lee Cummings. What are your theories? What are your thoughts on this fella? This should be interesting. This should get some good reactions, I think, especially from fucking Mayor and. Oh man, I'm kind of afraid to see what I'm going to be reading here in a second. But bathing suit zombie. Of course, you see him during the zombie montage thing, which I think he was actually on set for the first day of shooting. I think he was there for that. In that fucking bathing suit, freezing cold outside, belly bumping up against the door of the Monroeville Mall. And then, of course, what I give him all the credit and all the praise in the world for is that final bump at the end there when he gets shot in the head and he just takes that fucking bump into the fountain in the mall from the bikers. That to me, that's like one of the coolest stunts in the movie. I don't know, but just watching him because he's almost like rubber. He just kind of bounces into the fucking thing and just kind of floats off. It's crazy. It's a hell of a fucking stunt. But kayfabe as a character, who is this guy? Where did he come from? Why is he wearing a bathing suit in the middle of the winter? Why is he trying to get into the mall? There's so many questions here. But the first thing you got to look at when you're trying to examine who this character is, how did he get here? Do we see any visible wounds? Any bite marks? I don't. My theory is he probably drowned. I'm guessing he'd probably drown with the bathing suit. I think it's, kind of, it's not a huge leap to make. I think that he drowned in a pool after getting cramps from not waiting 45 minutes after eating, because that's what I've come to the conclusion of. He probably got cramps in a pool, ended up drowning, and then coming back from the dead. Just my theory. I don't know. But I think it is a cool full circle moment there that he does end up getting shot in the head and falling back into the water, into a fountain, where it all ended for him beforehand. So that's what I'm going with. Drowned in a pool, or, I don't think, maybe, yeah, I'm just going to go with the pool, because it's Pittsburgh. There's no, beaches, there's no ocean, there's nothing. So I'm going to say drowned in a pool after getting cramps, not waiting at least 45 minutes to swim. Because, I don't know, I've always heard that's the thing. I don't know if that's a true thing or not, but that's one of those old wives' tales, or whatever they call it, where you got to wait 45 minutes after you eat before you swim, or you'll get the cramps, and then you won't be able to swim. So there's my take. Lee Cummings. I don't know much about Lee Cummings. I don't know if Lee's ever done many conventions before. I don't know if he's done any convention before. I highly doubt it. I don't know if he's still around, or where he's, where he's living now. I don't know anything about him. I just know the name Lee Cummings. But I just think he deserves a huge round of applause for that. For having the fucking balls to be out in Pittsburgh in November, December, whenever the hell they shot this, in nothing but a bathing suit. First off, that's dedication. That's badass. And second of all, like I said, that bump into the fountain was just, flawless. Awesome. So yeah, Larry, I don't know if you've ever, or John, I don't know if you guys have ever looked up to see, like, is he still around? Is he still, whatever became of him? I'm not too sure. I know, I'm trying to think. I don't think it was him. I think it was, yeah, I think it was the other guy. I can't think of the fucking guy's name. It's the dude in the suit that's out there with the nurse zombie and Clayton and the rifle zombie. Jim Sorreo. I can't remember what his first name is. But he was like a truck driver or something, for Laurel or something at the time. I know he was working on the crew and was one of the truck drivers, I think. But anyway, it's getting late, guys, and we're about 2.5 hours in. I'm about 3 beers in right now, which is quite a bit for me. So, but what do you guys think? Who is this guy? Where did he come from? Why is he in a bathing suit in the middle of winter? What is his origin story? Oh, what's up, Zombie Historian? It says in the novelization, Roger DeMarco is a Vietnam vet. There you go. It's been a while since I've read the novel, which I know the novelization and the screenplay are pretty similar, but yeah, I've just always assumed that. I think even before I read the novelization of Dawn, I just always just kind of assumed that just the way that he moved, and he was probably a military guy from Vietnam, probably got a job in the police force when he came back. So Rick says, then Peter looks a bit puzzled, but then decides to give up his rifle to the zombie and just lets the rifle go and climbs in. Yeah. Again, another one of those scenes that the guy sitting next to me during the 3D screening of Dawn just lost his shit. It was just, he was like De Niro in Cape Fear. Just like, ha, 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 ha. I'll never forget that. Rick says, I see that as symbolic that Peter, one of the last heroes alive, chose life instead of trying to fight off all the zombies. That's right. That's right. Preservation. All right, Steven wins for tonight. Holy shit. The Cannonball King of Monroeville never failed to make a splash. He died like he lived. So your theory is that he was a local celebrity in Monroeville, and he was known as the Cannonball King. You win. You win. Steven wins for tonight. That's fucking hilarious. The Cannonball King of Monroeville. Holy shit. I'm stealing that. From now on, he's no longer Bathing Suit Zombie. He's now officially the Cannonball King of Monroeville. I fucking love that. It's fucking hilarious, Steven. Oh my god. That got me. That got me good. Bonnie says he was the town drunk, died of alcohol poisoning in his kiddie pool. That's depressing as shit, but that's pretty funny too. In a kiddie pool of all things. Which yeah, usually for some reason when you see like big fat guys, they're usually just kind of in the smaller pools, just trying to stay cool. Or maybe that's just down here in Kentucky. I don't know. Oh Lord. Oh God. Mayor's next. What does he got? Mayor says, well, he was a guest at the hotel where the bachelor party was at. He drowned at the hotel's indoor pool. There you go. I'll come in full circle. The story is being pieced together here. All these guys know each other. Nurse zombie, helicopter zombie, the fucking Cannonball King of fucking Monroeville. Oh, that's classic. Rick says I interpret the act of Peter surrendering his fancy rifle as letting go of all the emotional and traumatic baggage the group went through to take them all and the zombies, and then later, yeah, that's a great point that I don't think it's talked about enough, is the idea that Peter just kind of lets it go, doesn't fight for it, and just is just wants to live. How much longer? Who knows? You know, the line at the end of the final line of the film is, you know, how much fuel do we have? Not much. All right. It's like, and that's just not just with the helicopter, but it's just like in life. Like, how much fuel do we have left? Not much. All right. What else are you going to do? What else can you say? Like, all right. Like, oh, darn, what do we can't go on. Like, no, you keep going until you run out of fuel. And then when you run out of fuel, you deal with it then, and you just keep pushing. There's my motivational speech for the night, guys. But yeah. That's a great point, Rick. That doesn't really get talked about a whole lot. And then the symbolization, or the symbolic aspect of, you know, him letting that rifle go. Because, boy, Peter loved that rifle, let me tell you. All right, Robert agrees. Robert agrees with my assessment. Mayor says, no, wait, he drowned doing a cannonball at the hotel's indoor pool. There you go. Full circle. He was hired for the bachelorette party because he was the Cannonball King of Monroeville, and then it took a wrong turn, and that's where it all went to shit. He drowned, came back, and then the whole thing went down after that. Larry says Lee ran a pet/fish store near the Leona Theater in Homestead that Shelby ran. He's passed. Okay. Very cool. I didn't know that. Not very cool that he passed, but I didn't know that he had run a pet store. Anything. So I'm glad got a little information on Lee. But unfortunately, it's sad that he passed. I kind of figured, because, you know, bigger guys don't usually, you know, last as long as, you know, you don't see very many overweight 90-year-olds, you know. But it kind of sucks. Like, I'd have loved to have met him. Because you guys know how big of a fan I am of his fucking fall into that fountain. So, Rick says back, making a statement like, okay, the mall is yours again, and he just lets go of his fancy rifle too, as if say, it is more important that we survive rather than fight for all the material possessions. Absolutely. Spot on, Rick. Absolutely. It says he was headed to the all-you-can-eat barbecue ribs night at the Brown Derby. Didn't want to get his shirt dirty. He just said, nah, I'm just going to go in my shorts. We'll be good. All-you-can-eat barbecue ribs night at the Brown Derby. Which I don't think the Brown Derby was open too much longer after... Were they still around in the 80s after Dawn was filmed? I always heard that they kind of closed shop soon after the fact, but... Mary says, damn, Steven, I didn't even see your answer before I typed my... Well, hey, it worked out, because it totally makes perfect sense. We can bring it all together. That's how he died. Got hired for the bachelor party. Yes, yeah. Cannonball King of Monroeville. That's his name now. That's where he came from. That's his backstory. That's what we're here for, guys. We're here to figure out the origin stories of these particular zombies. Absolutely, Cannonball King. Now I kind of want to put him in, King of the Zombies tournament next year and just call him Cannonball King. Mayor says I can see him doing the cannonball while listening to the Breeders. Bringing it all full back, all the way back around 90s alternative rock. So, good one, Mayor. Good one. The last splash. Yes, it was. Maybe he slipped on that last splash and took a tumble off the high dive and and that was all she wrote for the old Cannonball King of Monroeville. And with that, I mean, the night's been made. We have crowned that we've got an official name, a new official name for the bathing suit zombie here. I'm gonna make a fucking t-shirt. Fuck it. Shop.alpharomero.store. I'm gonna make a Cannonball King of Monroeville t-shirt. That's my next goal. And I'm gonna send you a free one, Steven. I'll send you a free one when I get it made. Oh. Power outage. There we go. Mayor says, fun fact, they used to hang out at the warehouse where the Breeders filmed the Cannonball video. My friend rented a photography studio there. That's cool. Big Kim Deal fan. I'll say that. She was it's Kim Deal, right? I get the Kims mixed up. There's Kim Gordon from Sonic Youth and Kim Deal from Pixies. And then she went on to do the Breeders. Yeah, I've never thought. I know the Pixies have replaced her in the most recent incarnation of the band, but there's just something. It's not like she did anything fancy or anything or over the top, but it's just not the same without her. I don't know, but yeah, big Kim Deal fan. Zombie story, nice. Yeah, you guys better put your orders in now. We're doing a big pre-order coming up for the new Cannonball King of Monroeville t-shirt. Get ready. Thank you, Steven. You made my night with that fucking shit. That was hilarious. Cannonball King of Monroeville. That's awesome. This was fun. Yeah, this was a lot of fun. Yeah, and I had more set up here, but we're almost 3 hours into this sucker, and it's Sunday night, and I know you guys got to get to bed and got shit to do. So I'll save the rest for another stream some other time. But yeah, I thought it would be kind of fun, something different, something kind of fun. After talking about getting old and dying Wednesday while we watched the amusement park. But yeah, join me back next weekend. I'll be back. I will have a very special guest for another episode of Collecting the Dead. I'll be bringing on Jace Whitman of the Music and Monsters YouTube channel. Check him out, Music and Monsters on YouTube. He does Thursday of the Dead every Thursday. That's usually like a 5 to 10 minute little video of him opening something new he's just added to his collection or showing off other stuff that he's had in his collection for a while. I mean, the dude, this incredible collection that I'm really looking forward to letting you guys check out and seeing what all he brings on here and really get a chance to kind of talk to Jace and kind of get to know Jace a little bit. We don't know each other too well, but I've been a fan of his channel for quite a while and follow him on all the socials and stuff like that, and I'm really looking forward to talking to him and getting to know him and hitting him with the 10 questions and all the good stuff. So looking forward to that. That's next Saturday, May the 3rd, Collecting the Dead with Jace Whitman. Should be a fun one. And then, like I said a minute ago, shop.alpharomero.store. Check it out. Got some brand new t-shirt designs, some different stuff on there. There was a sale going on this week, 35% off for this weekend. I don't know if it's still running or not, but go check it out. It helps support me. Maybe I can one day afford some better internet and better microphone and all that. But yeah, I just think it's cool to fucking design my own different t-shirts and different stuff that I'd like to wear. So check it out. Find something you like. Help a brother out. I'd appreciate it. But yeah, if you're new, subscribe to the channel, and I appreciate it. Like the video. All you guys are always awesome on these live streams. It's the highlight of my week, is getting on here and hanging out with you guys for 2 or 3 hours and just nerding out. And I'm gonna get the old Cannonball King off the screen there, but yeah, always a great time, guys. Always appreciate you guys in the chat. You guys were fantastic tonight. Bonnie, Mayor, yes, the Deal Sisters, that's right, the Deal Sisters. Always a pleasure, Mayor. Loved your theories. Loved your theories. You're bringing it all together at the end there. Rob, always good to see Rob. Keep that love flame burning, my man. Love flame hot. Rob says when the zombies see a human cannonball, they do lick their lips because they notice more meat. Oh yeah, oh yeah. That's a good question, and they're easier to catch too. So it's like, keep that in mind, guys. Stay in shape. Stay prepared. Rick, always a pleasure, my man. Glad you were able to hang out tonight. Bonnie, good to see you as always. Ed, pleasure as always, my man. And I want to get Ed back on too and finish his version of Collecting the Dead. We didn't get to see any of his shit, but hopefully we can get that figured out when we can get our internet and shit figured out one day, and I'll get you back on for part 2 of that. Definitely look forward to that. Steven, absolute pleasure tonight, my man. Appreciate you as always. See anybody else? Larry, love you, brother. Thank you for hanging out tonight. I'm gonna watch the replay. It's been a fun one. That's right, Rob. Love flame high. Robert, love you too, my man. Hope to see you soon as well. Show your woman Dawn of the Dead. Get her prepared, and I will see you guys in June at the Living Dead weekend at Monroeville Mall. It's going to be here before we know it. But until then, you guys stay safe, stay prepared, and of course, stay scared. Good night.